It's a Friday morning. Here we are on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo is the name, and I gladly welcome you aboard. Now, you know how we do it on the AM show, especially on a Friday, but I'm going to be elaborating on what to expect. I'll be serving you the news shortly, and right after that, Remy Edmondson is National Secretary of the PPP. He will join us for the news review, followed by sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And then for my blunt thoughts today, 3 crucial issues I'll talk about, which is why I've titled it Dodgy Power, Shady Deals, and Weak Institutions, Ghana's Pitiful Law. I'll be bringing you details of that after sports. And then we get into our big stories. Now, SML, Strategic Mobilization Limited, has refuted some of the findings of KPMG, but this brings to the fore our revenue assurance regime and value chain development and how it can be effectively used for the general good. This morning we have a conversation with a value chain governance expert on the back of the controversial SML or GRA deal. Again, we'll be telling you about a partial victory for dual citizens as the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, has ruled that they can hold some positions hitherto forbidden by the Constitution. Now, what are these positions? What does the ruling mean for advocates of dual citizenship? And again, the Supreme Court, that same apex court, has ruled as unconstitutional for salaries to be paid to president's spouses. We'll interrogate all of these issues together with our guests on the show. You want to stay for that conversation as well. Also, stop arrogating to yourselves positions and making yourselves kingmakers. Chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, is worried and admonishing party faithful to desist from such tendencies. But does this phenomenon wield any potential of derailing the party's fortunes in the 2024 elections? We'll be finding out as we're joined by our guests. But you join us with your thoughts via the social media stream, and when we activate the phone lines, be one of those to call. Thank you for staying. Up next, we serve you the news. Welcome to the News Belt on the AM show. In our first story, President Akufo-Addo has assured the chiefs and people of the Upper West and Savannah regions that he will do his best to fix the Bamboy-Bole-Wa Road before he leaves office. Now, speaking when he called on the Wala over Fuseni Seidu Pelpo IV, he stated that fixing the road project would be his parting gift for the people of the 2 regions. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that President Akufo-Addo also charged the Upper West regional minister, Stephen Yakubu, to immediately address the issue of rationalizing the sale of government land to government appointees and private individuals, which is rampant in the region.
It is a highway many now dreads to use. The Bamboy-Bole-Wa Highway, otherwise known as the N12, is bumpy, deplorable, and replete with maze of gaping manholes. It is a ritual to see vehicles break down and drivers and passengers stranded on several portions of the road. The situation now is even worse after the Dolly Bridge was washed away by violent flash floods. Government promise to fix it was knee-jerk and harum scarum. Over 6 months of claiming to fix it, that portion of the road still remains a death trap, and commuters often have their hearts in their mouths passing through it. At least it is not for the faint-hearted. Many commuters take a detour to the Fufuso Junction, adding extra 250 kilometers in traveling time. Overlord of the Wala traditional area, now Fuseni Seidu Pelpo IV, expressed worry over the poor state of the road when President Akufo-Addo paid a courtesy call on him at his palace in Wa. Jimpena Kadir Ibrahim speaks for the Wala overlord.
The Wa Bamboy route, Your Excellency. It is now a nightmare to travel on that route. A journey to Kumasi that ordinarily takes 5 hours to now takes 12 hours. Granted that your vehicle does not break down on the way.
President Akufo-Addo, in responding to the war overlord, assured him that the Bombay-Bole Road will be fixed, adding it will be his parting gift for the people of the region.
I will do my best about the Bombay Road. You say it's my personal parting gift. Also, the Minister for Roads and Highways, the new minister, will be here to speak to you about sure that we can do both the Singing Road as well as the road for Bombay at the same time. But we will make an effort.
On the issue of rezoning and sale of government lands to government appointees and private individuals, President Akufo-Addo pledged to work on it and has therefore directed Upper Sudan Minister Stephen Yakubu to take charge of the issue.
I'm extremely concerned about the statements you have made about government lands.
Ka uhakala saramkwana biya yalna tayala at the Ghanaian government to Tumbango Yotari Lomborini.
And here is one of the advantages you're going to get from having a minister who doesn't have any immediate relatives here in Wa. So he's sitting beside me and he has heard you, and I'm going to insist that he does something about this immediately.
Turning to the 2024 general election, he urged the war overlord and his subjects to work towards maintaining the relative peace that the country is enjoying. President Akufo-Addo, however, promised to be back to the palace one more time before the elections with a man he prefers to succeed him.
But before the election is held, I'm going to come here and pay my proper goodbye to you and to thank you for the cooperation that I've received from you and your chiefs during my presidency. When I come, I'm going to come with the man who's going to be my successor. Well, now you know that the man I removed from the seat, I cannot have him as my successor. And as a traditional ruler, you understand what I am saying.
Reporting for the news, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, some victims of the flood disaster occasioned by the spillage of the Akosombo Dam last year say they are yet to get their lives back as they continue to reel under the harsh conditions in the aftermath. According to the National Disaster Management Organization, 39,000 lives were affected, rendering some homeless. 6 months after the disaster, the future looks bleak as the government is yet to announce resettlement and compensation plans. In an upcoming Joy News documentary, Life After the Floods, some of them tell Joy News how rebuilding and survival after the floods has become extremely difficult.
This is where I used to stay with my family.
Okay.
Yeah, so for now, the status of it is not even looking nice for you, as yourself you can see.
Okay.
There's no one in because I'm the one. I'm now living with my sister.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very, very painful anytime when I get here. That's why you can even see there's no cleaning. Because when I get there, when I see things, then I don't know what to touch. I don't even know where to start from. So I feel very sad.
I alone, I'm having cassava farm about 10 acres, and the others, they are having. In Siko right now, if you go to the farm top, everything tend to firewood. All our cassava tend to firewood, and we can't afford our life together. How are we going? And up to now, the village is not telling anything about our life. How are we going to survive?
The flood scattered everything because of the spirit. The piglets are all died. It take them away, and nothing remains.
So at the time you heard about how many pigs in here?
I have about 85. I'm very much annoyed with VRE, and we are not hearing anything from them. My house collapsed, and we are all at Agbetipo camp there. We at the tent where we are not getting it easy at all.
I'm America. I'm in Yelasin. The Anka Alafama aton the Kama. Tawam in Yamara, Fibukatam, Akarafato Tonto, Laman Yemen.
Now, in the quiet corners of rehabilitation centers and safe houses, the voices of resilient young girls echo a plea for a chance at a brighter future. For these girls, victims of abuse and trafficking, the journey to recovery is a daunting one. Sarah, a 19-year-old survivor, shared a very sad story of resilience and hope of how she had to sleep with 15 men daily just to raise money for herself and her madam for some years until she was rescued by an immigration officer and taken to a shelter. Like Sarah, countless other girls yearn for the opportunity to pursue their ambitions. Yet, the obstacles they face are formidable. Non-governmental organizations and institutions like Expertise France, a French public agency with funding from the European Union, dedicated to supporting survivors of trafficking, highlight the urgent need for tailored educational and skills development programs. Ivy Setoji has more in this report.
A stark reality unfolded in a recent series of interviews conducted across some shelter homes. Many of these courageous survivors, mostly girls, while grateful for the safety and care they now receive, express a deep longing to return to school or learn a trade. For them, education represents not just a path to knowledge but a beacon of hope for a life beyond their traumatic past. Sarah, not really her real name, a 19-year-old survivor, shared a very sad story of resilience and hope of how she had to sleep with 15 men daily just to raise money for herself and her madam for some years until she was rescued by an immigration officer and sent to a shelter home.
The place that I suffer too much is in Benin. The woman that I went and stayed with, the woman is doing a shower, and it's not woman like that though. He's 20 or 21 years. I have one pikin. So and his husband said that let her be carrying girls, so that the girls will be doing the shower, so that let her wife should stop that. So the woman, you can't tell me, before she will help me and buy some things for me and clothes and be giving me food, that I should join her and be doing the work, so that she can be giving me food and giving me anything that I want. So I tell his husband, the husband told me that I should be doing the thing. So every day I will be doing like 13 boys one day, 1,000. And if I give the woman the money, he will say that I did not work. That's the second day that I should try and do bigger than like this, or he will chase me away. So I'm trying my best to do what will make the woman happy. So I can't tell the woman that I don't get tired. The woman can't tell me, okay, that I should work like 1 month, 2 months, so that I will stop. So I can't, one day, I can't work only 5. I can't work 5 people. The woman can't send boys, they can't collect the money from me. I can't tell the woman the money that I work, they collect them from me, then that I'm coming back. He told me that I'm not okay, that I should go and find the way to find the money. I can't stay one place. One boy come meet me, tell me say what's happen. I tell him say now my madam Bonio. Tell me say okay, that I should follow him and go out, that he will give me 12,000. So it's from there I sleep with the boy. He give me 12,000. From there I can't get skin infection.
Like Sarah, countless other girls yearn for the opportunity to pursue their ambitions, yet the obstacles they face are formidable. Another young girl who is currently a nursing mother due to traffic issues also shared her sad story.
So now my friends take me to Togo. So he tell me say that job before Togo, Jamaica come say I want to do job here. So I not tell my family say I can go to Togo. He tell me say by day he will give me 50K. So me try say if I carry 50K by day, if I do 1 month, I will go to my house. So I will bring that money go give her my mother. So ask me say make I come and do. job. So I don't see the job. Tell me to make I come and do. Like I shower, tell him say I can't do that. So that time I see the my daughter father. So I follow him go.
ASI Justice Kuju Nomashi is acting officer in charge of anti-human smuggling and trafficking in person unit at Aplau, who led in the rescue of the trafficked girls.
In this situation, we would have to, first of all, have interagency collaboration on how we will take care of her, because as of now, she is pregnant and she needs extra care. And that extra care, we must have someone who is going to be responsible of that extra care. It comes with finances, because her case happens to be a special case because of the torture and the ordeal she has gone through. And so, even though the initial agreement or the initial plans we were making to send her, to reintegrate her to her family, now there is a problem that we have to look at first, so that when she is being sent back, which condition is he going with? How is she going to cater for herself on the way before she gets to the family? We must get proper medical review that will clear us to say that she is good to go before we take any step of moving. Other than that, then we have to still appeal to people to come to her aid, as we have to take care of her medical expenses, her feeding, the shelter where she is. She needs to be catered for.
In our next story, she gave up on her search for true love after 2 failed marriages, each leaving its own scars. However, it was the death of her father and a visit to the mortuary that sparked an unexpected love story. The undertaker, who was hired to ready her father for burial, became the newly found piece in Gifty's love puzzle. My colleague, Joan Nyame, has more in Joy Prime's latest feature titled From Mortuary to Matrimony.
In the vicissitude of life, love sometimes finds its way through the darkest of times. Meet Gifty, a 34-year-old who has been in search of true love without success. In the depths of her sorrow, she discovered an unexpected beacon of love in the most unlikely places, the mortuary.
When he said the thing to me, I was thinking, it's like the pain, the sorrow just vanished.
Her love journey has been marked by sorrow and disappointment. But it was the loss of her father, a pillar of strength in her life, that shattered her world.
To be frank, I told the whole family that is my last marriage. I will not marry again, because first didn't work, second didn't work. Why should I go for the third one?
Alone in her grief, she found comfort in the cold confines of the mortuary, where her father's lifeless body lay. It was here, amid tears and questioning, that she encountered an unexpected ray of light. The undertaker, who was hired to ready her father for his final journey, became her source of comfort in her darkest hour. He became the missing but found piece in Gifty's love puzzle.
Though I was working, my attention was on her, because the word that had been coming was touching my heart. I said, no, if this is the case, I have to approach this lady.
Their brief engagement in the morgue sparked what would ignite a love story neither of them saw coming.
I've told myself I won't get married again. We are in the same line. So when we come together, we could move ahead. We could be an example for somebody.
found comfort. So from there, as time goes on, like some 2-3 months, he proposed. Along the way, I agreed to his proposal. So from there, we started the relationship.
Today, Gifty and her husband stand hand in hand, having weathered the storms together. Their love, born in the most unlikely of places, has blossomed into a story of a new beginning. Sometimes, love finds us in the most unexpected moments, turning adversity into triumph. For Gifty and her husband, their journey from the mortuary to matrimony is a testament to the enduring power of love. A love that conquers even death itself. Juan Nyame's report.
Now, in our final story, the director for the Institute of Applied Sciences and Technology at the University of Ghana, Professor David Dodu Ahin, says an innovative way of solving the plastic waste menace is by educating the public on turning plastic into a profitable venture. Speaking at a workshop at the University of Ghana, he said the approach did not only address environmental pollution, but also promoted economic sustainability. There's more in this report by Zuleiha Nuhu, read to you.
Plastic waste is a major problem in Ghana, with blocked drainage systems leading to flooding. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, an estimated 86% of Ghana's waste plastic load is improperly disposed of, resulting in plastics clogging up stormwater drains, rivers and streams and more. But how can this change for the country to benefit from plastics? The director for the Institute of Applied Sciences and Technology at the University of Ghana, Professor David Dodu Ahin, says more people have to be trained on how to turn the plastics into profitable ventures.
We are having a partnership with the Europe Recyclers through a project by the European Union called Horizon 2020. And the partners are from Finland, Netherlands, we have Belgium, and industry players in Europe who are into the European recycling. Realize that this is an international problem. The plastic waste is not only in Ghana. We also have similar situations across the world. The bigger part is it's entering into our oceans, and sometimes it enters into the food chain. Our fisher folks will go to fishing, and sometimes the net, instead of getting fish, they are getting a big catch of plastics. So what is our contribution to this? Our contribution is finding lasting solutions to this in another way, and incentivizing the people to collect these plastics, because when you collect the plastics and you are able to get some money out of it, what we call the pickers, they get it, we weigh, then we get money out of it. We will encourage people to do that.
Professor of Materials and Chemistry at the University of Eastern Finland, Jekko J. Saranin, stressed the need for collaboration between Ghana and other countries in addressing plastic waste. He said the dual nature of plastic as both useful and environmentally hazardous calls for an urgent need to mitigate its harmful impact.
Our mission here in Ghana is to strengthen the collaboration between our university and the University of Ghana, and then also learn from each side's what are the best ways to treat plastics. I think it's a valuable material to be reused in similar applications, so we shouldn't be wasting precious materials, and also we shouldn't be doing that for the environment. Plastics is a marvelous material. The main reason why plastics are used so widely is their durability, and that's the reason that they are so good in the applications in which we use them. For example, if you have an artificial hip joint, then the bowl will be made from plastic, and it functions really well. But at the other side of the coin is that we have the durability is a problem if the plastic ends up in environment, in the place where it should not be, for example in the oceans. So it's people should not be throwing plastics away in the environment, but it should be collected and reused to guarantee a better future for all of us.
Waste Segregation Officer at Jekora Ventures, Budu Kumoji, called on the government to make waste sorting a policy for waste management companies.
When you segregate your waste at source, you are able to add more value to the materials. So waste, or there's a saying by Zimmerman that says resources are not, they become. So what you declare waste is what is waste. So if you don't declare anything waste, it is not waste. So we are encouraging that plastic materials, especially for purposes of this program, plastic materials should be sorted at source. At the point of generation, do not lump it up with all other waste materials. Keep it separately. One important thing as well is there's no policy that says that people should segregate their waste. So even in some areas where we do not operate, you get individuals who have probably lived outside the country and are used to such systems. They segregate their waste, but the waste management company that is accredited to service them does not have these services. So they separate it, but then when the company comes to collect, they lump everything up, and that's a waste of effort. So over time, they stop it altogether. So we are suggesting or recommending that a policy should be made such that every waste management company would use this approach, and it would go a long way to help us as a nation.
Waste segregation, recycling, that's what we're being called to. That's how we cap off the AM News. But stay with us. Up next, the News Review. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the News Review. And guess who joins us? Remy Edmondson, the National Secretary of the PPP. But before I bring him in, you know the segment is always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And this morning, as always, they're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. And if you're a woman, fertility screening for free. All you have to do, make your way to any of their branches. Where can you find them? Here in Accra, they can be located at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Then there's Kumasi, Kronum Abwehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Energy State, Tema Community 22, Tichiman Hanswa, and Esiama Nzima. You can also reach them via phone on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the News Review. Remy Edmondson is National Secretary of the PPP. He joins me for this morning's review. Good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
Did you have light overnight?
I did overnight, but not during the day. So typically, it's either, if we have it, it's mostly this week, it alternates. This week, it goes off during the day and then comes on at night. And then the previous week, it would be on during the day and off at night. Well, sometimes also just, you are expecting light, but you wake up around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and it's gone off again.
You know, those saying, I mean, the energy minister said we should draw our own timetables. But even that is difficult.
Yes.
Because in my case, it's not regular.
Right.
Sometimes you'll have it off in the morning, throughout the day, and then at some point in the evening it comes on. At some point, it takes you by surprise, and you don't know what is happening. And
exactly.
So it's been pretty erratic. And it's one of the things I'll talk about in my blunt thoughts today. But you should be reassured, because the board chairman, the new board chairman of the ECG, Herbert Krapper, he has said that these challenges will be a thing of the past very soon. In a matter of days, we're going to... I'm sure you heard him.
Yes.
But from where we sit and what we know, they keep saying, oh, it's not a monetary problem. It's not an issue. It is this. Sometimes I listen to my good friend Kojo Poku and I ask myself, what happened? I mean, he's my friend. We're cool and all of that. But his analysis, he says other people's analysis, is voodoo analysis. But sometimes I listen to him and I wonder, look, but you should be reassured by that, right?
Not at all, because like you said, it's been what? It's been more than a month since these issues started, and from outright denial that there were issues until now, when it's very clear that now everyone is complaining. It's not just a few Ghanaians who are experiencing this. So I think we need much more than verbal assurances. We need clear explanation or strategy of what exactly is being done. If the chairman is telling us it will be over in a few days' time, he needs to tell us exactly what is being done to ensure that these doing such will not just be fixed temporarily, because we don't want to have power for about a month and then in a few months' time we go back to the situation again. Businesses are suffering, households are suffering. I mean, our lives have been disrupted. We need some stability. We need to be able to plan and be very clear that this issue will be done with for good.
All right. Maybe in a minute and a half, sure. I know you have something you'd like to talk about this morning, right before we get into the papers.
Yes, my key burn issue this morning is the president's statement, one of the statements he made when he went to WA.
Okay.
To meet the chief. One statement about saying that he was not going to hand over. He cannot hand over to the person he took over from or defeated in the elections. And I find, and actually assuring.
I heard that too. But he said that time and again.
Actually, he said, stating also that he's going to come back before he leaves office. I mean, before he goes off for good, with Dr. Bawumia as his successor. And I find such comments very worrying. I mean, coming from the president of the nation. You know, imagine these statements. This is not the first time he has made such a statement. No. And imagine such statement would be.
It wouldn't even be the third, fourth, or fifth time, because I think I've heard him say something along those lines. And many times.
Imagine this statement was made by some members of the opposition. It would have been chaos. Okay, let's not forget that the NDC itself is very, very determined not to stay in power for another 4 years because of the break the 8 mantra of the NDC. So.
I think you've reversed them. So the MPP,
sorry, yes,
and the NDC.
Yes,
right.
Thanks for the correction. And then also, let's not forget that the current Minister of Agri, Brian Champong, has also made similar comments in the past. Even recently, there was one last year which had a whole uproar. And at the recent Kwewu festivities, he said it once again. So I find such comments very worrying, because then it seems if the president and his minister are making such statements, it doesn't. Mind you, he has also said that he is committed to ensuring free and fair elections.
Right.
So, but you have already declared that you know who is going to win the elections.
But some will tell you that he's merely expressing an opinion, an optimistic opinion.
Then it should reflect in the comments. Then I would expect that you said that, oh, I'm hoping that I will come back. I'm hoping that my choice of my successor would be this person, right. But not to make a categorical statement that this is the person. And I see. It's really unfortunate to say that. How do you determine that the person you took over from cannot be your successor? I think it sends very wrong signals, and clearly, I mean, rubbishes any supposed intention by him to ensure free and fair elections.
But should we be very worried about that, or is it something that is mere political talk? After all, in Formena, Honorable Esiama, now the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, what did the President not say? The President said that, I'll give you 2 examples, and then the Asin situation, Gyakye Quayson.
Okay.
In these 2 instances, the President went there, and in the Asin situation, he said, and you're practically going to vote for someone who could be a candidate for jail and all of that. Gyakye Quayson won. All the same. In Formena, and you can't, if you vote for this person, I can't work with him and all of that. He won, and they eventually ended up working with him. So should we take the president's comments with a pinch of salt, or should we be more worried?
We should be worried. You see, he's speaking he's speaking to foot soldiers.
Right.
And we find that, see, we have, let's not kid ourselves, we have a very charged political environment now. There's so much at stake for this 2024 elections. Yes. So he's speaking to foot soldiers who are listening to his word, and they're going to take it up and act on it. There was a similar comment. I watched a video a couple of days ago by the Minister for, what's his name, Asensu Boakye, where he was campaigning in Ejiso on roads.
Yeah.
And actually saying that, asking that if they don't vote for the MPP candidate, they vote for the independent candidate, will he be able to come to him to ask for roads?
And I've talked about that. I found it incredibly disappointing.
But this is the mindset.
Egregiously,
this is the mindset
politically
our public appointees have. That they forget that they are holding authority on behalf of the Ghanaian public. You are voted into power not in your own name, but for the people, because all of us, over 30 million Ghanaians, cannot be in office. So you are being given the opportunity, because you are trusted to use good judgment and to discharge your duties for all Ghanaians, whether they voted for you or not. But this trend where, and he's not the first person to have made similar statements. So I think that's why I said I'm quite worried. These are not statements being made off the cuff. These are statements that it's coming from the president, it's coming from ministers.
Do you think they are learning from the president?
Certainly. I mean, certainly. So it seems to suggest that perhaps, like I said, if the president of the land makes such a statement, he's the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. If he should make such a categorical statement, it suggests perhaps there's some plan in motion to ensure that these words of his come to pass. Well, that's quite worrying. We should be worried.
And that is why all of us, I mean, regardless of whom becomes president, we must be very vigilant in election 2024 and ensure that the will of the people is what in the end, no matter what the people decide. I mean, we can be here in this studio and maybe think along a certain direction, but if the majority of Ghanaians don't think along with us, whatever that opinion is, that viewpoint is, it is what must prevail. But we must ensure the sanctity of the ballot and ensure that what emerges, what the Electoral Commissioner declares, actually is the will of the people. Sure. In the end, once that is the will of the people, I mean, ultimately, you decide. Americans voted Trump, did they not? Mm-hmm. They got, the UK voted Boris Johnson and all of that. Now it's Rishi Sunak, now it's Joe Biden. I mean, you cannot, the only point is, let it be free, fair, transparent.
And there's going to be peace. Satisfying.
Well, let's get into the papers now. Today, there's a paucity of papers, but I'll start with you, with the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Okay, so I have here on the front page, we'll revamp Prestia Book of Sumines. That's from the Lands Minister.
Okay.
And then this story that wouldn't go away. Government directs the Ministry of Finance, GRA, to renegotiate revenue assurance contract with SML. And then Tamale communities hit by acute water shortage. And then the IGP urges Ghanaians to exhibit maturity and patriotism ahead of the 2024 polls. These are the news items on the front page.
Which ones would you like to get into?
The SML, the SML's issue.
I think let me see whether I can get some. I've seen some reactions.
Okay.
I believe it was it Bright Simmons? I'll look for the post and then you can go ahead. But for me, I have shared my thoughts on this. After the story, maybe I'll reiterate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But in this particular instance, it's SML that is responding to the report from KPMG. Yes, and I read about that yesterday, where they are disputing. KPMG is saying that they've received about the quota figure of 1 billion, 61 million, and 54,778 cedis as compensation so far since the contract was put in place. But this is something they are contesting, and the reasons for me are just clear. Just one: let us have the report. I think we spoke about this the last time I was here. I mean, the president has earlier on committed to ensuring that we get to the root, to the bottom of this. But after his response, they still only took portions of the report. So we need to, as independent observers, as Ghanaians, as citizens, and not as spectators, we want to see the full report, and that's what we are calling the president to do. Because then, if we see the full report, then we can also know for a fact whether and examine, scrutinize whether the figures the figures and the report KPMG has put out is consistent with the facts. SML also will not be, if indeed it turns out that they are right or they are wrong, we'll know from the report. But we are all blind now. We haven't seen the report. And again,
but why do you think we're not getting to see the report rather than have the Jubilee House, issue a white paper, 5-page white paper, when we know that you can even tell from some of the instances. In fact, yesterday, Ben Boakye of ASEP suggested that he had sources who were telling him, and I repeat, I'm not stating this as a matter of fact, I am saying that Ben Boakye, executive director of ASEP, suggested, so get my wording clear, I don't want anyone to misquote me, suggested that from his sources within the system, within the executive, let me leave it there, the report was rather damning and even suggested that the deal be truncated. But the president says it should go on with some aspects being renegotiated, per Benjamin Boakye. The question then is, what is in the report for which reason government does not want to release it? Because in these reports, it's like the 2010 Constitutional Review Commission. When you read the fine print, then you understand better what the thinking of the commission was. So why would you, one, expend taxpayers' money to get a top 4 auditing firm to do work like this? It didn't cost chicken change.
Right.
It cost an arm and a leg as far as the taxpayer is concerned. Now the report is done and you issue a white paper. We must get to the point where government in, government out. We stop this, nonsense of white papers and put reports out.
Sure.
For scrutiny.
Yes, you see, prior to appointing KPMG, I mean, there were a lot of protestations that we had, and some entities established, existing entities that could have taken this matter up. Yes, so at least save us that funds. But it is appearing to suggest that, yes, I mean, going to KPMG, yes, they have international repute, and it suggests that anything they put out there is quite authentic. But here's a case where you are only relying on certain portions of their report, basically to move forward from there. Now, the fact that the president is suggesting that some aspects of the contract should be renegotiated indicates that clearly certain due diligence and then a value for money audits perhaps were not undertaken prior to appointing this company and giving out a contract. For example, he's asking that the situation where they should be given a fixed fee rather than, since this was one of the areas highlighted by the KPMG report, to ensure that the country doesn't unduly pay out more money than it should pay. But this is something that clearly was allowed to take effect in the existing contract. So we welcome the fact that, yes, he's asked for the contract to be put on hold while we scrutinize it, but until any further steps are taken, there should be transparency and openness, and again, put out the report, and if the president is really serious about fighting corruption and rooting it out, then let's have the full report so that the public can examine it. You, the media, can also do your work. We, in the political parties, media, civil societies.
What this does is we can't get such information.
Right. It's very unfortunate.
So the pipeline has been truncated.
Exactly.
And all you are told to deal with
is the real facts, and even ascertain whether what the presidency is putting out are really the facts of the situation.
Exactly the case. And if anything from the grapevine is to go by, it would raise a lot of questions about
and lastly,
whether that is the truth.
Yes, and Benjamin, this is not the first time we have these kind of contracts come up. From what I read, the nature in which this contract was given, apparently, I'm told initially PPA did not give this.
Yeah, 3 times, on 3 occasions.
And so they had to go through, was it West Blue?
Yeah.
Which had an existing contract.
So subsume the contract under West Blue.
And then after West Blue lost their contract down, push them in. So clearly it tells you there's something amiss. And we see some of these contracts that go on where entities get so much money for ostensibly no work done, and the taxpayers lose out for it, and the nation as well. And there's nothing about, again, the last thing is, I was expecting the white people to say if indeed there were any instances of monies obtained unduly, there should be a refund. But I didn't see that also mentioned in the white paper.
You know, interestingly, what I will wrap with, I have found the tweet from Bright Simmons, and then I'll add something else that the Fourth Estate posted. Today is the 26th, so just yesterday. Bright Simmons says, no one should be confused. The whole SML thing boils down to, 1, what did they do for Ghana's benefit that got them paid 1 billion Ghana cedis? Think about it.
Yeah.
2, what are they going to do for Ghana for which they would be paid an extra $1 billion, not cedis, dollars over 10 years? 1 billion Ghana cedis already gone, paid to SML for whatever work they may have done. Whatever work. I'm not saying they've not worked, for whatever work, for the flow meters and whatever. If that suffices, well, you be the judge. I am not saying anything. And then, over 10 years, $1 billion. That's an average of $100 million per year. That in today's current exchange is about, because now the dollar has hit 14. Yeah. So that basically is 1.4 billion Ghana cedis every year. Do you know what that means by way of roads, by way of hospital, logistics, by way of other infrastructure, by way of our power generation and Dumso? Right now, I hear it's not even Dumso. In the Ashanti region, people came to me recently and they were like, oh, they say, Dumso, a pressor. Because even when there is light, it is prepare, it's a pressor.
That's another stage. We're not getting, when there's power, the voltage that we are having is not, it's not as strong as it should be. That's also another issue I've noticed. Some people are also complaining about.
And just to wrap on this matter, the Fourth Estate posted just yesterday, of course, that Accra High Court throwing out SML and its case against the Fourth Estate, in which it claimed the news portal had published, quote, defamatory and reckless reports about its contracts with the Ghana Revenue Authority. And the court, presided over by Justice John Eugene Nyante Nyadu, also awarded cost of 1,000 Ghana cedis for SML's failure to do due diligence on the legal status of the Fourth Estate before going to court, and citing the investigative journalism project as a first defendant in the case. So that is it in there. Okay, let's get to other stories that you have.
So on page 2.
So page 2 is there. The story doesn't say page 2, but you can't find it on page 2.
Oh, sorry, it's page 3 rather.
Okay.
Yes, that's it's still the Cocoa Board case.
But what do you think, though? Some people have called for the head of the Cocoa Board boss. You know where we are in terms of cocoa production.
Right.
One of the lowest over the last decade, right? I mean, under Kufuor, we hit 1 million tons. Under, at Mills Mahama, we hit about 900,000 at a point. These have been the highest within the last 2 decades plus. But now where we find ourselves is precarious. I saw this video that actually looks at our production all the way from the 50s till, I think, 2021, 2022. And you look at our trajectory, and honestly, we've not done well in terms of making ourselves that grand, producer of cocoa. And now Galamsey has come to muddy the waters, literally.
Very significantly.
Everything in there. So, I mean, that in itself...
I mean, the smuggling has also, of the cocoa has also gone up so much.
Now the complaint is that, look at cocoa prices on the international market. Government has done something. There was an increment. But people still say, the farmers, I was reading a story yesterday, they are still saying, no, it's a pittance. You are giving us so much of a fraction's fraction of what you are getting. Why would you, cocoa's price per ton is equivalent to is more than the price of copper per ton. That's how high the prices are rated, about $10,000 per ton.
So you see, let's look at this issue. Again, it will not really be about this government only, but successive governments prior. We have always, it still beats my mind why we always go out there to borrow money to fund our cocoa purchases. Ever since we lost, I don't think Ivory Coast overtook us as the largest producer of cocoa in the world. Right. It just didn't happen overnight. I'm pretty certain that they took deliberate steps, implemented strategies to make this happen.
And even before that, Brazil, at a point, had been the world leader.
Right.
Ivory Coast strategized, Côte d'Ivoire, and they became number one. And since then, rarely have they not been number one.
Exactly.
But we have...
Yes. And if you look at the cocoa value chain, this is one of the things that's sad. Anytime we talk about cocoa, honestly, I don't like discussing cocoa because we produce the cocoa, and yet there are other countries in the West that benefit, economies that are benefiting, because we have not developed our value chain system. And these are things I wish that the government would look at and ensure that we don't just farm the cocoa and then export. I know there are a few companies here that are processing it, but significantly, there's so many byproducts of cocoa that we could look into and then ensure that the government in the country makes much more revenue. And this issue of always going in for loans, I think, is problematic. I mean, I don't think that is the best way to manage the situation. And yes, Galamsey, the warning sign started years ago, about 2-3 years ago, when cocoa farmers publicly indicated that they are willing, because they were not getting much revenue out of their cocoa farms, they were willing to sell their cocoa farms to Galamsey operators. And the operators also indicated a strategy where if you refuse to sell, others will sell. They will simply just mine around you, and you find out that you can't even access your farm. What did the government do about these? I mean, these were reported by the media copiously, but we never saw any deliberate steps from the government to ensure that cocoa farms were being protected. And so here we are with this situation. Not to go political, but some cocoa farmers have even alleged that even with the distribution of the implements and fertilizer and others the government was giving to them, there was some segmentation based on your political affiliation. So these are all issues that we will need to really look at as a nation. If we really want to keep our cocoa production, let's ensure that we have a deliberate start. We will expect the minister, sector minister for agric, and whoever is in charge of cocoa, the management board. Right. Let's ensure that we have, first of all, have competent people on the board who should give us a clear-cut vision for how they are going to restore the situation.
All right. Would you like to take something from the?
Yes, it's still.
We are limited for time, so
yes, it's still the SML here.
SML is still the major,
yes,
most major.
Sensitizing market women on tax, and it says that the bulk distribution companies BDCs object to government's plan to designate Best as sole off-taker. Story on page 4. So I guess this is also another similar. Yes, the government wants to give the bulk energy storage and transport company as a sole off-taker for Central Oil Refinery Limited's production under the Gold for Oil program. So once again, something like this, stifles competition. So the question again is, what processes led to the government wanting to appoint this particular company? Why not open it up and let it be competitive? In that case, we'll be assured that there'll be value for money and the consumers will benefit for it. Yeah.
I'll just take a quick look at the Daily Guide and the Accra Times. Daily Guide, Otumfuo clocks 25 years. KPMG report clears us. That's according to SML. You read between the lines. You don't even have the report, so it's going to be tricky. Nana Jabs Mahama, I beat you twice. That was the... well, I think he would also have experience, wouldn't he? Atamils peppered him twice as well. Then there's, at least once, and then it followed in 2012 as well. Akufo-Addo commissions 15-megawatt Kaleo power plant, and then stop bad-mouthing us. That's according to the EC. Yeah. I'll do both stories on page 6. So, President Akufo-Addo on Wednesday, April 24, 2024, commissioned the second phase of the solar power plant project at Kaleo in the Upper West region with an installed capacity of 15 megawatts of power. The 17.8 million euro project installed by the Elecnor SA from Spain with consultancy from Tractebel Engineering from Germany was funded by the German Development Bank. And then stop bad-mouthing us, the EC says so. The Electoral Commission has asked former President John Dramani Mahama to stop denigrating members of the Commission. According to the EC, Mr. Mahama, who is staging a comeback for the presidency, quote, has never missed an opportunity to denigrate the Commission. The comments come after the NDC flag bearer alleged during an interview at the London School of Economics and Political Science that government had appointed NPP people onto the Electoral Commission. You are into politics. Let me ask you, how do you feel about some of these developments? It wouldn't be the first time, but people who seemingly are in bed with one side of the political spectrum getting appointments into strategic areas, including the Electoral Commission. Your brief take on that.
Yes.
Do you think it's a problem? Because some people will say they are Ghanaians. They are Ghanaians, but can we expect fairness from them? That's the question.
They are Ghanaians, but like I said again, it's a fact that we have become very polarized as a nation on political grounds. And this happened under the Mahama administration, where, and the fact is, so long as anyone the president appoints is going to be deemed as an appendage of the appointing authority, that's the president. I think what we need to do is to ensure that let's have a situation where the president doesn't have to appoint the commissioner and her deputies. Okay, that should then do away with this perception that whoever the president appoints is doing the bidding of the presidency. And in this particular instance, yes, there was a lot of pictorial evidence that was put up by one of the commissioners that was recently appointed about being a TESCOM patron and all of that, having made certain comments, having been a communicator and all of that. These are the issues which makes the NDC uncomfortable. And the question is, should they also come to power, what are they going to do? They're also going to do the same thing, you understand? And then it's the same cycle repeats itself. So, I mean, from our space, sometimes it gets very worrying. And in this particular instance of this rebuttal from the EC, I would have wished that, yes, it's good they came out to respond, but I saw a portion of their statement that also where they were also jabbing that he also made appointed people that were perceived to be politically inclined to the NDC. And I felt that aspect could have been done away with and not have made its way into their report. I mean, I feel they should have just focused on the facts that they needed to put out there, not to settle scores, as it were. Yeah.
Well, we have to go, but the Accra Times, I'll just leave you with the headlines. Jay Nana to Mahama, I'm grateful. I would not see myself as a driver's mate. And then, don't allow NDC to bully you. Afinyo Markin to NPP communicators. Final words in some 30 seconds, and then we go.
Right. So I think I just want to touch on the Professor Nana Jane Pokuajiman's adoring speech. Yes, which has gotten some attention. I'll congratulate her on her nomination. Just one thing I want to talk about was her talking about setting up a bank for women to empower women, which is a good thing.
Quick thoughts on that?
Yes, it's a good thing, it's a good idea, but you see, my question is, we have existing facilities. We have Maslock.
Yeah.
That is, we'll talk about that another day. Yeah. I mean, it seems to be a conduit to bleed money out for food soldiers.
Exactly.
GDA came up. We have the NIA, NEIP.
In other words, we already have systems.
So many of these.
Why are we
exactly? I would wish that we rather focus on ensuring that these existing structures that have been set up really work for. And lastly, she spoke about going after corrupt people from this government who are they're not going to let off the hook. I wish also that it shouldn't be that we get into power and we prosecute people from the
other side.
What system and will we put in to ensure that our own people, when we are in power, don't have access to money, or even there's a disincentive to be corrupt.
Right.
I would wish that is also looked at as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I agree with you on both points. Actually, the bit about a bank, we have systems. Make the existing systems work, and corruption must always be a double-edged sword.
Especially when you're in power. That would be the best vote of confidence from the people, when we see that you're actually going after people when you're in power.
Remy Edmondson is National Secretary of the PPP. He joined me for a conversation. After sports, you want to stay with me for my blunt thoughts, and I've titled it Dodgy Power, Shady Deals, and Weak Institutions, Ghana's Pitiful Lot. But before we veer into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment. They're offering you free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman. Reach out to them. Their branches here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady and Najee State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiamanzima. You can also reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review and the start of sports right up next. Do stay.
As the most talented footballer that Ghana has ever seen. How did you get this talent? Quite natural, or you trained for it?
You've asked a question. You know, when those times that we were playing football,
yeah,
and if I remember very well, it was around where GBC is. You see behind it, Kanda. There is a fence wall there. There is a field there, and we have a Arabic school just opposite.
Yes.
And we used to go and play football, and that is where the area they play football. There was no coach football there. Coach football is being played at Manchiagbuena in the Logan area place, Accra Main Street.
Yeah.
And you can imagine I was playing with the, older ones, but very young. And they used to come and pick me to go and play coach because I'm a coach player. So you could see that I was a talented player, a gifted, which I just know how to play football because none of my
Your
family
lineage or
no, I don't know if somebody played football, but the football, I think that football was given to our generation. So playing football is part of what we love to do, apart from going to the Arabic school. And then it happened that they have to form a team. And that is all how it all came about. And those who were with us, like Anas and Juan Labaran, they were our seniors. Okay. And they had a chance to go and justify themselves at Accra House of Fools. That was the lotteries.
Oh, okay.
And it worked. So the manager then said, well, if your colleagues, they went to Hearts of Fools at that time. It's not easy. If they can make it, you can also make it. I said, no, I'm not interested. Because I look myself very young. I can't go and disturb myself at that highest level. They said, no, you have to go. I say, well, if my colleagues are there, no, you should take me. But it's not even easy to get to wear a jersey and play. Unless you have somebody, a godfather, somebody around to give you that. I say, you can do it. Say, well, let's go. So we went there and they were playing. They play. And nobody, I've seen that. Somebody, Mohamed Polo is here. Nobody knows me. Then we're sitting there. The guy said, let me go and find out what is that. Well, yes, that is how it has to go. Because you have to get a godfather who will talk for you. Because nobody knows me. He went there and said, okay, let's see the boy. So I've also brought a boy. I want you to say, okay, who is that? Let's see him. Then they asked me to come. And when they saw me, they said, what God, this small boy, what is he coming to do? Say, just give him the chance and see. That day, the training grounds stood still. Because at that time, the senior team have qualified. I'm talking about 72.
Yeah, okay.
They've qualified and then they are in a camp. The rumor got there that a young boy has come home. And the rivalry between Olympics and Hearts of Fools. They said, if we leave this boy, now that the people have heard that the boy is a gem, they will go and influence his parents. But they do that too. At that time, so I was asked to go to the camp. And the small boy, I don't know. So it all started in a very mysterious way because it never happens.
Was it destined to happen?
It looks like that. It looks like that because I don't know what I was doing. I played football. But, because I was very, very, young, my area, those who come to watch me, the area people, they have to protect me because, Buga, because you see giants playing with
Takashi football.
Takashi. And if I'm dribbling, then they will, hey, Maza. Now I face it. I started facing these problems not when I came to, that highest level. I started facing those problems as a target. And, well, it's part of a God-given talent. That's why if the talent is given to somebody, we have to encourage to bring it up to the best of it.
Do you recall the year you began playing football? How old were you when you began playing football?
Yes. In fact, our parents are not that, excuse me, I mean, they are not educated.
Yeah.
So they just don't keep
records.
But you know, our mothers, they will look at
an incident that happened.
An incident that happened.
And use that to gauge.
Yes, and then look and say, hey, what's that? So they couldn't refer anything to me, but they referred it to my sister. You know, I can, you know, my sister, you know, followed me. We were 4. My senior brother before me, and then my sister before another. So they refer it because she referred it to those years, you know, that was Independent Day when my sister was born. So she refers to them the age, you know, with 2 years difference.
So as we speak, a specific date of birth for you is not known?
No, it's not known. But House of Folk managed to
to give you a date of birth?
Yes, they gave me a date of birth. That coincides with their with their anniversary. So when House of Folk is 50 years, I'm also 50 years. I'm celebrating my year. So that is how it goes. But funny, you have to take it that way. But I remember very well, I was then very, very young. So I will be around 16 years, 17 years. Because at that time, we don't play this youth football.
Yeah.
That would have seen me, you know, at that level. Unfortunately, it was after we have past that age group, then youth football started coming. And that is always an advantage too.
Polo is a quite dominant name, but reading about you, I saw Alhaji Mohammed Ahmed. How did the polo come into the picture?
Yeah, it's another story. You know, those days, you know, coming from a very, you know, humble family, very poor, and that time football doesn't make, you know, give you money. We play for the love of it, but we just enjoy playing. So, you know, we always have what do we call an interest. When it rains, you know, there is this these things that come from you know, when it rains in the bush.
Okay. Yeah.
You know this.
They look like some, I don't know how to call it, like widows or something.
Yes, we go and search for it, because that is where you get your, you know, we don't know that it's nutritious, you know. This kind of meats and other things, you know, you go there, that is where they come up. So we go there with the older ones, and they take us, we go and then search for it, for them. But at that time it was, you know, that area was getting to the airport area where they play this polo game on the horse.
Okay. Around airport. Okay.
Around airport, it's still there.
Yeah.
So when we are coming, I enjoy watching, you know, them play. So I stay and watch, and sometimes I come back home late. When I said, why did you do that? I was watching polo. I said, what is polo? So this area football that we playing, you know, and at that time area football is very, even today they organize themselves playing area
football is crazy.
Yeah. So there was a match between an area and then a rivalry community, and they needed me. And I told them that, look, this I have to go and watch it. Today is polo, you know, football day. I have to go there and watch. If you want me to play, let me go and come. Let's say Polo, Polo. That is how the name Polo came.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Quite an interesting story there. You mentioned something that kind of caught my attention a bit about your family. How would you describe those beginnings of your life?
Yeah, I think, you know, Muslim, community, we are always restricted because of the religion. Don't do this, don't go this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So the interest, you know, to go to school even is not there. So my senior brother did not start school early. So it has to go that way, you know, but the Arabic school, and that time it was not Arabic and English. Yeah. They are not in the, so if you go in too much for, in the secular education, then maybe you become a Christian. That is what they were thinking. Unlike today. So it took some time. And because I was coming up, there was a school that is interested in footballers. This Roman Catholic school. Okay. That's at Nima.
Around where the Gata is?
Yes, Nima.
Okay.
Nima, the main market.
Yes.
Yes. You know this Roman school?
Yeah, there's a church there. Yeah.
That's where I started my primary school. So I go there and they were playing football. So I enjoy going there. And I was playing football. Small boy, but I was fixing to play. So that's how it started for me to go to school. And even to, you know, go to the level of a primary school to, you know, now today GSS.
Form and
yes, Form 4.
Form 4.
Form 4. But I didn't go. There was no Form 4 there, so I have to come to Kotobabi here for my Form 4. And then I remember, very very interesting. That time they played this school game, football games. And I was part of a Greater Accra selected team. And we're playing at Tamale. And we have to sit an exam. That was the last day of this Form 4, which is very, very, even today,
yeah.
I was asked, and we were asked to go to camp. So you know, that was from Form 3 to Form 4. And I'm supposed to, you know, sit the exams from Form 3 to Form 4.
So you can progress to the next.
Progress to the, but because of football, I have to go. And then the exams was over. I came, they said I should repeat. I said, what? I went to see then the head minister. She was mistress. She was a lady. And there was a teacher who loved football. So I went to him. I said, look at what is it? Is the school not proud that a people has been, you know, selected. To represent, you know, the whole Accra? And he is asking me to repeat. I said, no. He said, they asked him, if there is something at all, they should look at my class, you know, work, exams and other things. If it's good, then definitely I could have passed. And that is where I was, I was passed, but I didn't sit the exam.
I see.
And the day we have to sit the exam for the Form 4 certificate, I don't know what the certificate, because that certificate is also, you know, it values, you know. What I sat this exam and passed this exam. It should be there. They put it in there. You have to put it in there. At that time, you have to put it in a frame. You have to frame it and put it and show people that you, because at that time that level is the highest level.
So was that a level you got to, or you proceeded?
Because of football, I couldn't continue. I was given the chance to continue you know, that was to the secondary school. Because of football, every time they come and take me, go and play football practice. And when I went to Arsenal, they shattered it.
Which year did you go to Arsenal?
72.
So you went to Arsenal 72?
Yeah.
Was it after that training session you spoke about that someone took you there and you were given an opportunity to play?
Exactly.
So how were you signed? How were you signed? Because
we were not signed. That time we don't sign anything. You are not you are not enticed. That's why it's football at that time. It's, you know, purely, you know, sacrificial job. The love for it. You just want to wear, especially when you are playing Hearts or Folks or Kotoko. It's not easy to wear those jerseys. To the extent that you are called to the national team. Surprisingly, I came 72, 73 I was called to the national team. 74 I was the best player in Ghana here. So I became target. I became a target that, you know, it doesn't matter. At that time, it's not like today. You know, good players, quality players are, you know, they have to be protected.
Yeah. Because
they make the game, you know, interesting. I mean, football is entertainment. If they are not there, at a point in time, if I'm not well, even I have to be injected to play football. Master, we've gone through hell in football, in Ghana here.
When you say hell, what does it mean?
Hell, injected. Who will be injected to play? Today's young ones, you know. I mean, even if he's so signed, whatever money, if he's injured, you know, he has to be properly treated to come back fully fit. Is that not what is happening today? I remember just recently, Kudus was coming. He came with his, you know, physio, to ensure that, you know, he can play. Ours is not like that.
But isn't it also because those days it was not as sophisticated as it is now? We have more medical, or let me say, more scientific way of treating players. So every player or every club has got a medical team in place to protect its players. Maybe at your time, those things were not available.
Yes, we were having medical checkups. If these things are not there, no, you cannot go to Africa when we are going to play, even 1978. The one when we won the cup for keep. You have to go to medical checkup. And one of the best players was declared unfit through medical. He's okay, and that is Kumi. And then I was not fit. I was then not fit. I was feeling, you know, pain in my leg. But I have to play it. I have to go to Eastern Europe tour throughout. We came back, went to Brazil because they wanted us, and I did all this. When I came back, I was not feeling well. I said it's enough because it was an ankle injury. Ankle and knee injury, these are these are sophisticated areas. I was having it here on my. I came and then I couldn't do anything. I decided no. We have players. We have Ajiman Prempeh, Kotoko player, and the same Kumitu. They were all lefty. They can equally play my position. Surprisingly, I didn't tell anybody. I picked my bag and went home. It was just a day before the match, and then it was Achampon's time. He came. Achampon has to, you know, is a special assistant. You know, he has, because he has love for football. He is the one in charge of football, but he appointed a special person who just, you know, he
follows
just
the team.
Pardon?
Follows the team or the player?
No, he. Everything that man, you know, send message to him. The word.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he liaison with him. You know, he tells him whatever it is. So he's straightforward. When he tells him something, it is from him. The communication is straightforward. So if he says this is it. So he came there to encourage the players. And because I was his, one of his idols. When he comes, he see me. He came after talking to them, encouraging them. They should have to go. If they go and win, they will be promised. They will get a very. This is what the, Achampo himself, the president, has said. If we are able to win and win it for keeps, the award, and we all know that it's houses. After winning it, we were promised houses. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But then I have packed my things and went because I can't do anything. I felt it's too much. And we are going to play with the likes of Tunisia, likes of Nigeria, who play, very hard there. Masa, I went home. The guy, after the meeting, the promise, he spoke to the guy. He said, where is Mohamed Polo? You know what the coaches told him? Mohamed Polo has packed his things and went home. And he didn't report that this is what Mohamed Polo has done. Because they want to, have their own players to play. Some of us, we started facing challenges long time ago. Because that players, they are Kotoko. They are almost, Kotoko sympathizers, coaches. So they love, if they feel Kotoko, once I'm there, as a husband, I'm an impediment to those Kotoko players. Because if I'm there, I'll play. Even with injury, I have to play. I decided, let me pack my things and go home. When the colonel came, Simpe Asante, he came and he realized that he came to Nima. You can imagine how Nima was at that time. When you go, even today, it was part of Nima that became Kanda. So behind it, it's still there. That ghetto life, is still there. This officer came with his car and passed all through this and came like, he asked, where is Polo? He said, hey, now Polo, why are they? What is going to happen? And they called me. I came out. Say, why did you leave camp? I said, I'm not feeling well. You see, if it's something, they should have reported that this is what is happening to me. And I feel like I cannot go, or I should be taken to hospital for checkup. For treatment. No, I decided because I was being used, without medical attention. But this man, this colonel, he said, no, even you're half fit, you are better than somebody who is. That is what he told me. So go and pack your things and let's go. And his order. So Jama, I told him, I beg him. My mother, especially my mother, she's a trader. She's not in. You should wait for her to go and bring your things. Then go and bring. I will take your things so that I make sure you come. So I brought my things. He took my things to the camp. And then when my mother came from, she came late. I reported it to her that this is what has happened. She gave me the blessing. Go.
My name is Benjamin Akakwa. Welcome back on the AM show. It's time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts. And today I have titled it Dodgy Power, Shady Deals, and Weak Institutions, Ghana's Pitiful Lot. Ghana never ceases to surprise me, at least its misleadership. Another thing that surprises me is how quiet and patient we are with the political class, even when things escalate beyond reasonable levels. And I'm not just talking about this particular administration, though I've seen some of the most egregious activity under this administration. I'm talking about throughout the Fourth Republic. But go and look at the Asian tigers, even a country like, though it's not part of them, Vietnam, and what they've been through, even under military organization feeding into some democratic or capitalist practice. How they got there. Look at countries that have made it and the cycle, the consistent cycle of accountability, responsibility, probity that they have gone through. At the inception of the Fourth Republic, the former President Rawlings, may his soul rest in peace, spoke about these, that the Fourth Republic had to be anchored on those. Accountability, probity, and all of that. Where is that in Ghana today? Where? It's a pity, because when you go to private enterprise, it's bedeviled with corruption. When you go to the public enterprise, where you would expect better, even worse. It stinks to the high heavens. Things are not going well for our country because there is too much greed. And once there is too much greed, fewer and fewer will hold the levers of our economy and live well, while more and more of the masses live in penury, abject poverty. If you're satisfied with that, then it's okay for you. Maybe you're a foot soldier or communicator, and speaking and sending messages is what earns you your daily bread. I could pardon you for that. But how about the rest of us, sentient as we claim to be? It's not just about us. It's about the Ghana of tomorrow, because tomorrow will be built on today. What Ghana will your children and mine, your grandchildren and mine, your great-grandchildren and mine come to meet? Look at what Galamsey has done to us. Look at the havoc. You know, the other day I was having a discussion with two of my colleagues. Back then, we could go to excursions and see the Ankobra, the Pra, and all of that. I guess it's only the Volta. Even some parts of it are suffering from despoliation. You can't take a child anywhere to go and look at any water body nowadays. They're practically all gone. But anyway, those are not what I'm going to be focusing on, not Galamsey or anything in between. I'm going to be talking about three institutions and how they reveal where we are as a country. The ECG, that's why I talk of dodgy power. SMLGRA, that's why I talk about shady deals unrepentantly. And weak institutions, where I'll talk about SNIT and everything in between. So come with me to the slides and let's discourse on them. Now, in terms of our erratic power supply, the comments from the ECG board chair, and I want us to highlight these so that posterity, because don't we want light? We want light. We don't want doomso or presso. We want light. So if we've been given a beacon of hope, we must hold on to it and hope that what has been said will actually become our reality. So the board chair, Herbert Krapper, who himself has taught me before, so he's a bit of a friend. He says, the unfortunate power challenges Ghanaians are facing should be over in the next few days. Next few days. Let's say till the end of the month. Or maybe we should be charitable. Let's say till the end of May. What do you think? Next few days. A few days could be just a week or a few days. But let's give them time. So a few days, let's say by end of May, right? Hopefully by then would be good. But then, you know, I've had a lot of trouble with Kojo Poku and some of his. The last time I heard him on air and we're dealing in voodoo analysis and all of that, he's also another friend of mine, but I vehemently disagree with him. And if you know me any well, you know that just because we have a relationship of sorts, does not mean that I will not bring you here and slaughter you if you deserve it. Now, he says government has money to buy gas. We need to basically negotiate with Nigeria for more gas because they are not able to meet the required gas they are supposed to give us. I guess if you really had the wherewithal, like other countries are doing, they wouldn't be shortchanging you. Don't you think so? Kojo Poku. Next slide. But how much do we need to fuel the power that we consume, the engines, the different, logistics? Electronic logistics. $1.15 billion. And if you consider how much we spend through corruption and all of that, you'd realize that if we did our homework well, this money would actually mean nothing to us as a country. But that's how much we need. And then the breakdown of the cost of fuel: natural gas, 1.1 billion, heavy fuel oil, $34 million, totaling the 1.15 billion I've spoken of. Next slide. But the total fee now, and just that was just, a potboiler. The focus there was ECG and the promise made by the board chair, Herbert Crapper. So let's hold him and this administration to it. No one wants to sleep in darkness. The heat, I suffer from a bit of hyperhidrosis. I can't deal with heat very well, unfortunately. So once you put me in the heat, I'm going to wake up with a bad temper and come and slice and dice you as though you were carrots, So give us light. Let our laptops work. Let us be able to cool down. Look at the weather nowadays. You want to keep me in the heat? What is wrong with these leaders? Anyway, so then I come to, please let's go back. Let's go back one slide. Then I come to the SML deal, right? And for the life of me, Ghana 4, we say we want to develop a la other countries. You can't do this in Japan. You can't do this in Singapore. You can't do this in Hong Kong. You can't do this in Sydney, Australia. You can't do this in the United States. You can't, Before you realize it, someone has, I'm not supporting this, but hacked your systems and got reports and they are out there. I'm not suggesting anyone do that, but why do we do this? What are we always afraid of? What are we hiding? Put the report out there. If you're man enough, if you're brave enough, if you're not hiding anything, put the report out there. But because we are insincere, because we are corrupt, because we are not faithful to the people, we want to hide everything, shroud it in a veil of secrecy. If I were Mr. President, no matter what has happened, after all the rhetoric, the talk out there, I would have put it out. And this is the reality of the situation. Whether KPMG is suggesting that we annul the contract or whatever, shows some commitment. We like touting we are fighting corruption. How have we fought it? How? Corruption has beaten us black and blue, and we're still taking a beating. God save us. Anyway, so the total fee paid to SML, 1.06 billion from 2018 to the date of the suspension, right? And no payments made for upstream petroleum. That's from the report. Next slide. Then, total fee to be paid to SML under the 2023 contract, mouth-watering. 5.17 billion Ghana cedis for 5 years. That's an average of about 1-point-something billion every year, which also tells you that is the equivalent, if you're using current rates, 14 cedis to the dollar, of over $100 million annually. Now, that's about 1 billion a year. Let's go to the next slide. If you look, though, at the findings, they say there was no technical needs assessment done prior to the engagement of SML. Which country does that? Ghana. Ghana does. GRA engaged SML as a subcontractor without PPA approval on 3 occasions. The GRA tried. The PPA pushed it aside. Guess what they did? They subsumed it under West Blue and then eventually knocked off West Blue, and then SML came to the fore. GRA SML deal was not approved by Parliament, but hey, it's been going on. That's a country with institutions, right? Next, so let's go back to the other slide before we come. Let's go back to, yes. Okay, so this has been done now. I thought I'd missed something. Let's go to the next slide. So government should terminate the contract. This is where the devil is, because that contract will not be terminated. And you and I, we read between the lines. We know why. Government should terminate the contract. Has the contract been terminated? Nope. Don't even dream of it. Could be a pipe dream. Government should pay SML for services already completed. Okay, whatever the service is, government should pay SML a return on investment equivalent to SML's investment. All of that is in there, at least from what we know. Yet. Now, The SML has refuted KPMG's findings. I mean, let's look at their side as well, to be fair, right? Let's have a global conversation. They say the 1.06 billion compensation quoted by KPMG is false. So wait, relax, Ghana for. When we said it, they said, hey, KPMG, an audit firm, top 4 in the world, amidst the Deloittes, the Ernst & Youngs, and what's the other one in Paul? All of these. And they said, oh, it was false. Now they too are saying it's false. It does not include taxes, interest payments, and investment repayment made by SML. Next slide. Shall we go to the next slide, please? Then excess revenue and volume increment, as far as the KPMG versus SML situation is concerned. So incremental volume, KPMG says 1.7 billion litres. SML says 10.3 billion litres. Look at the gap. Then in terms of tax revenue, KPMG is talking about 2.45 billion, but SML is talking about 14.8 billion generated. I had to use some sign language there because I can't think far. I can't think madness. But maybe you do. Now, as we wind down on that SML bit and then, wrap up with SNIT, Bright Simmons has posted, we insist on seeing the full KPMG report. We insist too, as media people. We want to see it. Fili Gadochi. Yepesi na ye kind line by line. And I must say, and then we dispute their apparent claim that any increase in petroleum consumption in Ghana should be attributed to SML. I mean, that makes no sense to me. With all the systems we had in place, then we're basically saying that all the systems we had in place, nothing was working until SML came along. Does that make any sense to you? Next slide. Not one pesewa more of Ghana's money should go to SML or any other company until such an open, transparent, rigorous, and meritocratic process has been completed. And that's according to Bright Simmons. Let's go to the next slide now. Now I'm going to wrap with SNIT. And recently we've got a lot of cause for worry from the ILO, among others. I mean, we've known that there have been shaky instances with SNIT, but now with such reports, they get us concerned. I have a friend who earns money in cedis, yes, but pegged to the dollar because of where she's worked and all of that. There are companies that give out contracts like that. I'm sure you're aware. And she's thinking now of not, her national security and all of that, doing it elsewhere and saving outside of Ghana. Do you know what that does to our economy? But it's because of where we are and weak systems, weak institutions. So, the ILO says SNIT is not financially sustainable has not been financially sustainable over the 75-year period covered by the projections in their report. And the why of it, next slide, we'll get into the why of it on some. It says SNIT's assets and future contributions. And mind you, the assets are crucial to whatever we who make payments monthly, yearly, will generate in the end. SNIT's assets and future contributions will not be sufficient to pay all future benefits and expenses over the period covered by the projections in that report. That is cause not just for worry, for alarm. Next slide. Now, government's indebtedness to SNIT also comes into the picture. As of December the 31st, 2021, the amount owed to SNIT by government was 9.3 billion Ghana cedis. 9.3 billion. Part of the problem with some of our institutions, even with the ECG, GRIDCO, VRA, and the rest, and including SNIT, part of it has to do with government itself, even including the GNPC. Government itself, governance. And then government's share in there, 6.9 billion Ghana cedis, equaling 74%. We're winding down now. Now, the makeup of government's share, delay in payment of SNIT contributions, and interest on unpaid contributions. Next slide. And this is going to be the final slide. Per the ILO's projections, starting in 2029, SNIT's total income will no longer be sufficient to pay for annual expenditures. starting in 2029, so that in 2029 people will know, oh, we said it here. SSNIT's total income will no longer be sufficient to pay for annual expenditures. Again, SSNIT's reserve will start to decrease and reach 0 in 2036. Which is why God reveals to redeem, right? We're not saying it's gone bonkers, it's gone completely bust, kaput. But what can we do now to avert disaster come 2029, come 2036? If you know you have problems, you start dealing with the problems. You don't wait till the problems escalate. I am a very worried man when I contemplate Ghana today. And for the first time throughout this Fourth Republic, when people come to me and say, oh, you know, back then, years ago, let's stay in Ghana, let's work, let's make this work. Nowadays, when people come to me, I give them my blessing and dispatch them. Because the reality is, the grass is greener on the other side because they water the grass more on that side. And people can actually, it's a good, rational decision because I don't encourage them to just go and stay there forever. Go, work, get something in your pocket, and come and establish something here. That way we build the economy. So for those thinking people are just going out and why are they going out, what system do you have? You don't even have light. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts served to you raw, hot, and edited, undiluted. And for those who think I must talk a certain way or sound a certain way, I have never sounded that way. I have always sounded this way. I will not change for anybody because I am who God made me to be. These are my blunt thoughts. Thank you for watching. God bless Ghana and make her great and strong. This is the AM show. Welcome back. Now, Strategic Mobilization Limited, SML, has refuted the findings of KPMG, at least some of them. But this brings to the fore our revenue assurance regime and value chain development and how they can be effectively used for the general good. So this morning, we have a conversation with a value chain governance expert on the back of the controversial SML GRA deal. And we'll be taking a look at that substantive matter. Joining us for this belt of the conversation, we have Professor Douglas Boateng. He's a value chain governance expert. And we also have Dr. Kwabena Arthur Kennedy, physician and political activist. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Doc, it's been a while since I spoke to you. I hope you're faring well.
I am well, and I hope you are well too. Good morning to your listeners and viewers.
I know you are well where you are. We could be better in Ghana, but we are still alive and kicking, so we thank God for that. Let me also check on Professor Douglas Boateng. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin. Good morning to your listeners and viewers. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you, Prof. Prof, just hold for me briefly.
There's one thing I need to say, Benjamin, before you continue.
Right.
Well done for your blunt thoughts.
Thank you, Prof.
Every Friday, I listen to you carefully, and you really get some of us to have food for thought. Today's blunt thought, which I'm going to send to my students, is we should all remember that tomorrow will be built from today. A very profound statement. Well done.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. We do this for God and country. But Prof, just hold for me briefly. Let me take, for starters, the thoughts of Dr. Kwabena Arthur Kennedy on this whole SML bit and governance-related issues. You know, per the report, the thinking was that, you know, the contract should be annulled, truncated, and whatever was owed SML given to them. But that is not what the government's white paper revealed to us. Then again, the PPA arrangement, 3 times the GRA took this to the Public Procurement Authority. 3 times the PPA said no. They found a way of circumventing it And then, guess what happened? They subsumed it under West Blue, and then eventually West Blue was knocked off, and then SML came to the fore. How do you react to this entire situation that came up? Again, we must salute the Fourth Estate for bringing this out. What's your take on it?
Yeah, my take, and good morning to your viewers and listeners once again. My take is that it appears as if the government is trying to hide something. The fundamentals of this are very clear, like you said. The contract were awarded illegally, and regardless of what benefits have been accrued, it begs the question of why, regardless of official disapproval, people ran the processes and awarded them the contract. Of course, a contract can be awarded improperly to somebody who might deliver some benefits when, for example, the terms of the contract were inimical to the public interest, the amount of reimbursement were inimical. And I think that the best thing that the government can do is actually release the KPMG's report so that the public can review that. And it will seem as if laws were by government officials who circumvented the process as well as the people who submitted it. And it will be interesting to know what relationships existed a priori between those who got the contract and those who awarded it. And part of the report that really, or the president's comments that really makes interesting reading is that after they got the thing illegally, after some time, they've gotten some experience. So I think that in the interest of transparency, the whole report should be released, and it will be helpful for Parliament that is supposed to do executive oversight to have appropriate, transparent hearings so that we know how this happened and how to avoid it in the future.
Interesting thoughts. Very interesting way to start off the conversation. Let me now go to Professor Douglas Boateng. He's a value chain governance expert. Prof, good morning to you. I'd like to take your thoughts as well on this development.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to talk to the audience from an industrial engineering and process monitoring and data capture perspective. I am an engineer, and I look at how to improve processes. I am not an employee of SML. My interest in SML is their product, which they've developed. And I'll give you some background. In terms of the contract, obviously, because I'm not an employee of SML, I can respectfully not comment until I have more detail. But in terms of the product, I have looked at it, and certainly it's of serious interest to me as a Pan-Africanist who has a Pan-Africanist agenda, taking products from one country on the continent to another. Let me give you some background. Back in 1991, I used to be in the chemical sector in the UK with one of the largest chemical and pharmaceutical companies in the world, in fact the largest. And we tried to do process monitoring systems using similar technology. We tried it for 3 years, and we unfortunately failed miserably and wrote off $57 million in 1994. I never gave up that dream from an industrial engineer perspective and said one day the technology would develop. I relocated to South Africa and tried it there as well. It did work, but we could not have multi-site locational instant data capturing and monitoring systems. Now, let's roll this thing fast forward. In 2019, I met the founder of SML, on one of my visits to GRA, and we're just having a chat about, the need for some of these things to be done. Then he said he has a solution, and I just laughed. I said, you don't have an idea as to what you want to do. It's a very complex process when it comes to data capturing in the chemical sector. So I just left it, and then obviously he did nothing. Then I bumped into again, and I was laughing at him. Basically said, have you managed to achieve your dream? And he said, yes. And I thought to myself, how? And he said, you have to come and see for yourself. It took me about 3-4 months because I was not believing. And one day I decided to go and see for myself. So I went there. He took me through it. I was quite surprised, but I was still very skeptical because of my experiences in the past. I was very, very skeptical. So I decided to monitor it for myself. And for the last 15 months, I have been closely following it. And then it dawned on me that the technology is now available for a dream which I had in 1991. So I decided to call my network of academics from MIT, from Oxford, Warwick, Stellenbosch, you name it. Most of these industrial and process engineering organizations. There is something very funny and exciting coming up for all of us. Now, once I did that, I also involved, I'm a professor at UMass. I also spoke to UMass about this technology. And he said, we have to. I recontacted the founder and basically told him that he's come on to something very big. And I asked him about how did he do it? How did he manage to convince us? And he said he took a risk. And I said, what risk? And he said, I was so confident in my product that I discussed with government a full risk-reward type of relationship. The government is losing money. The government basically is not even realizing what money they can bring in. And I was prepared to put all my assets on the block to go and do this. And if it works, the government should give me part of that money. And I thought that was a bold move. I knew of risk reward because I introduced it in South Africa. And today, a lot of South Africans have become multi-millionaires, those that are prepared to take risks.
Right.
Some have also unfortunately gone bankrupt. So, when he said I took full risk, then I started to explain, you know what the implications is? He told me and I said, you are a very bold man. But what is the government saying? He said, no, I'm not asking for even a pet one. What I am doing is generating the revenue for government, out of which they will pay me a percentage. I knew that. I'm sitting here, I'm not getting the revenue. I don't even know. We know what is happening with our gold. We know what is happening with our oil that comes in and then obviously ships out. We don't even know. Now, you don't have the money. You are not getting it. Somebody comes in and tells you, I am going to get you the money, but out of it, pay me some of it. Don't go and dig into your own pocket. I am going to generate that income for you, and then you pay me some of it. Is the government losing money? For me, technically, no, because the revenue wasn't there in the first place. And this is what I did in South Africa back in 1999, 2002 now with one of the big four, and I've created a lot of millionaires. We cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting the same result. My good old, very wise man who obviously gives me food for thought every Friday morning. This technology, for me, the interest is I want to even take it into other parts of Africa. I am not an employee, and I went out to even arrange visits for some of the top chief executives and policymakers on the continent to visit Ghana. Because for me, it's about made in Ghana. We developed the technology. It's a huge platform that allows for instant data capturing and also data monitoring. Now, there are issues with whether it's 2 billion or 14 billion. But the fact of the matter is this, so that does work. I see it as a product. I am helping a lot of Ghanaian organizations to obviously take their products into the rest of the continent. I see this new Nova technology as one of them. These people were supposed to come to Ghana in March. And then, obviously, the report came out. And I decided, let me put it on hold, go to all my academic friends.
In March of which year?
This year, they were coming to Ghana. Some of the most powerful chief executives on the continent and government officials to go to the site to go and have a look. You know what I did when I realized that this technology is really a game changer? I invited, in fact, I encouraged them to invite all the media people in Ghana, which most of them did. I think it was last year.
Right.
And you can ask some of your own very good colleague journalists. They were there to have a look and said, Ghana could be the hub for this thing because the technology has developed. That was a dream I had in 1991. And it's now being realized by a Ghanaian who has put together a multiplicity of systems to help with instant data capturing and also monitoring, which has resulted in the revenues we don't know now being realized. Yes,
in terms of, sorry, Prof, sorry for interjecting. In terms of those revenues that we don't know, it's like I always use the example of the iPod. We're all using the Walkman and CD players and all of that until Apple came through with the iPod and people realized, oh, even when jogging and stuff, I could. Sometimes an entity will let you know of a need you didn't even realize you had. But in terms of revenues that we were not getting or didn't know we could get, right? You look at the tail of the tape and the question is being asked about whether SML really, whether you're looking at the MPA, whether you're looking at the GRA, whether what the systems in place already did not suffice and whether anything has been added. Now you realize that even KPMG's report disputes whatever claims that SML has made in terms of the generation of income for the country, out of which they are getting a percentage. The question is, what really has SML generated? Can you pinpoint that?
Well, in fact, what the summary from the presidency, from the KPMG report, I've not seen the details. I don't think any citizen has seen. Basically says that they generated over 2 billion for us, which means that something is being done. Something is happening. The NPAs and the other systems which we are talking about, if it was doing its job, there would not have been a need for this product.
But that is exactly where the devil is. Because some say that there were interests at play, that it's not from a disinterested. Uninterested, you don't care. Disinterested, you don't have any biases, you don't stand to benefit. That this deal was not from a disinterested point of view. And per reports we are getting, from that KPMG report, that also feeds into it, because what we are picking up, what we have shared with you, is that the suggestion is that this be discontinued. So you ask yourself, looking at the so-called sums being generated, which have been touted, versus what we are paying, does that give the nation value? For which reason we have to go on for the next 5 years, 10 years, where we are going to expend about $1+ billion. What do you say to that?
Okay. Let me go back again. Is the government spending $1 billion over 10 years, or is SML generating that 10 billion? Let's assume it's 10%. Generating that 10 billion and getting compensated for the risk they took. You see, our society, and Benjamin, you are one of the most respected, for me anyway, because of the critical nature and, the homework that you do before you comment on things. When you look at the way we've been operating as a country, because of the cake being so small, when there's a bit of success, people become very, very, very jittery and also want to be part of it. Now, in the case of this product, which I'm interested in, I've already declared, I'm interested in the product to take it outside Ghana, and I know it's going to do well. We as people, because of the corruption in our beloved country, have become very cynical that we don't even see something good. Now, I'm sitting here, I'm losing over 10 billion. I go to the IMF to borrow 1 billion. Somebody comes in and says, I'm going to help you not to go to the IMF, but help us to generate the internal revenue, and out of it pay me. Government is not paying any money. If they do not generate the income, they go down. It's their problem. We are not paying even a peso. So the idea that we are paying government paying, no. We should reverse the mindset.
So, Prof, I completely get your point.
Yes.
It's like someone going to court on an issue and taking the best lawyer and an agreement that I'm not going to pay you up front, but if you win the case, then I give you X percentage. I mean, I get the point you're making. The concern of Ghanaians has to do with whether what the gains that the claim is made that we are making are actually being made. Now, if you look again at, and I'll go back to the report, the suggestion is that government should terminate the contract, that government should pay SML for services already completed, and that government should pay SML a return on investment equivalent to SML's investment. The very start of this was illegal. Circumvented Parliament, and that is a crucial matter. We have systems in place, checks and balances, for a reason. Circumvented Parliament, circumvented the Public Procurement Authority. That raises a lot of red flags. But then, government has instituted an audit, and a top 4 audit firm has said, let go. I am still concerned about why we would continue with this. Why do you think? And then I'll go to Arthur Kennedy before I come to you for your final thoughts.
I fully agree with you with your concern. But what I'm saying is, at this point in time, let's all sit back and reflect. What could have been done right, as opposed to what has gone wrong? Let's be more pessimistic. The product has been developed and is working. Where did it go wrong? I cannot comment on whether they circumvented the PPA, access law, because I'll be very surprised if they did, and knowing DRA, if DRA would circumvent. But we have to sit back and say, how do we take this product? It's a Ghana-made product, international, because it is working. And how will we generate income for Ghana? Because this company has to pay taxes. And the more we sell this product, the more we will be able to generate. I am a perpetual optimist. I'm looking at the positive side. Manasseh has got us all educated about, this product. The revenue assurance index, Mr. Benjamin, right now is going at an unprecedented rate. It's over 5 billion and it's going to be 10 billion within 3 to 4 years. And it's because of the advancements in technology. During my time, these products went there. We were using what's called PLC, and it was a disaster. Hence, 57 million was written off. Now, these small gadgets are working. It's very complex. You don't need a lot of people to manage it. And it's working. So how do we take this made in Ghana? Because Ghana can be monitoring the entire continent. Petroleum, upstream and downstream, from Ghana, Accra. The system is that robust. And any minister sitting in all the 55 AU countries can see the consumption of their petroleum products. I believe this thing will work in water, in gas, in mining. But government did not put a cent. The product owner is prepared to take the risk. If it works fine, if it doesn't work fine. Every year we hear the report, 4 billion of our gold. We don't know whether we've got it, whether it's true or not, because we don't have any data. Even when it comes to planning, every year we read the budget. I've been monitoring it for 30 years. When you look at some of the figures, I cry. Because the data is so out of date. We need to start having data, because that's the only way we can move forward and do tomorrow from today. I'm using your own words. We can't keep doing the same thing and expecting. I'm not blaming where the big players are. All I'm saying is, let's look at the positive side of this product. It is working. The contractual issues and whatever, GRA and government can sit down and agree and move forward. But the product works. I have monitored it. I've sent it to most of my academic contacts and my business associates. That is why they were prepared to all come here. Some of the powerful people, I mentor some of them. Some of the revenues of these organizations are bigger than the GDP of Ghana, and they to me for aside. And when I told them that they have to come to Ghana to see these products, they were very excited. And they were going to come in March, and I had to put it on hold because of the report.
Right.
There are positives from the report. There are very positives from the report about the product. There are also issues that we need to look at. All I'm saying is, as people, let's look at taking our own made in Ghana products international, because it will benefit us. It will generate income for Ghana.
There are. I'll go to Dr. Arthur Kennedy. When I come to you, Prof, just so you reflect on it before I come back to you for your final words. Nanake Ajaman says, we all support credible Ghanaian institutions, not a create and loot mechanism. Obviously, SML started on a very wrong footing. But he adds, please let Prof understand that SML is not generating any revenue. The claim is that they are checking under declaration and so forth. But they denied these assertions themselves in the Manasseh investigation. They deleted the assertion from their website. When I come to you for your final words, Prof, I'll take that. But let me come to Dr. Arthur Kennedy now, briefly. So, Doc, you've heard Prof on the matter. Basically, ab initio, even if things went wrong, he is saying, if the system is working, let's do it. It is a Ghanaian system. It is homegrown, and we can even export it to the world and make something out of it. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that good people in good times should be careful about certain bad precedents. We should not gloss over how this whole thing started, because it started with an illegality. For example, yes, the technology is working, but were they the only people who had that technology? If they were the only people who had it, why couldn't, for example, somebody officially say, we're going to do sole sourcing because of X, Y, and B? Why couldn't people go to the Public Procurement Authority for the necessary waivers so they do the right thing? And secondly, these findings are being disputed. And the other thing is that I don't know whether the Prof has seen the full report, but I only saw the
white paper?
Which means that it is possible that the full report contains information that we are not privy to. And we should also know that the government is not exactly impartial. We don't know why SML, of all the possible vendors, were picked. We don't know why the rules were flouted for them to do what they did. So one can hazard a guess respectfully that maybe even the president is not an independent arbiter. If we were to see the full report and find out who talked to who before we got to where we are. So respectfully to the professor, I think he makes a very good point that this is beneficial, but we cannot just say, oh, since good things are happening, let it continue. Then it means that even if we assume that those who made these mistakes erred with the best of motives, other people with bad motives will cite this president and do things in the future. Afraid of that.
I see. So from where you sit, with what you know as of now, do you suggest that we continue, as the white paper suggests, with the SML deal, with some portions renegotiated? From where you sit, what you know?
No, I don't think we should continue. I think that the public should see the full report. At the minimum, I think Parliament, as the people's voice, who should have been involved, should go back and hold hearings and decide how best to go forward consistent with our laws. And I also think that those who breach our laws ought to be punished. I am very passionate about this because this gives me uncomfortable echoes of how the Bank of Ghana, gave approval to unqualified banks and other entities to practice, and the public was left holding the bag. I think that these things ought to stop.
All right. Doc, hold for me. We'll be continuing on some other angles of a different conversation. But coming back to Prof, your final words, as far as this is concerned, you've made your point clear about, well, in some instances, you do realize that per the law, if ab initio, something is wrong, it is void ab initio because the right things were not done. It's an illegality. But you say, if we are getting the benefits, then we ought to continue. What then do you think should be the way forward?
Well, thank you very much, Benjamin, once again. As the President said in his recommendation, the party should sit down and obviously look at the terms and conditions and renegotiate.
Okay.
For me, that is a good start. Please let me correct them. Maybe I've given the impression that if something is wrong, it should still continue. No, I never said that. All I'm saying is, let's see the good side of the product. What can we do to benefit Ghana? Rather than putting it on the shelf now, what can we do? Because obviously, KPMG saw some value. The question is the quantum of the value.
Right.
Yes, they saw some value, and KPMG will not risk its reputation by basically coming out and saying that, yes, there's some value here. Good old Benjamin, if there was data available, believe you me, you will not be in the crisis that we are in. Our planning doesn't have the right data at the right time.
Right.
And this is what we need as a country. And if we manage, as a 32 million people, we've come up with a product, let's be proud of it and really go out there and sell it to generate income from the country. Now, in terms of the procurement, we have Act 663. We all know a lot of the challenges with Act 663. Is it fair? And my last food for thought, is it fair for somebody to come up with an innovative product, go to government and say, I'm going to risk everything that I have to basically try, you give me a try. And then, when that thing is successful, we say, oh, okay, let's put it to tender. Is that right? Do they do that in the U.S.? Do they do that in Europe? Even in Europe, you can't go even and find an asset. I know what happened on Harrods. The race card is played. But in our case, we open up everything for everybody to come and take it. We do not benefit. Privatization, have we benefited from it? No. I believe we need to start empowering our own. It's not about me. And like you said, and I keep repeating because I love that quote, tomorrow is built on today. We are all responsible for doing something for the next generation. And unless these revenue leakages, we keep an open mind, it's going to continue. We cannot keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different result. It's about time that Ghana takes their own people serious when it comes to sometimes bold decisions. Yes, we can, but we have to be very, very careful in terms of the people that we choose to do this thing. Somebody will not go and risk tens of millions of dollars if they don't believe in the product. And it's about time that we believe in our own. I know what is happening on the ground. And one day I will come and meet you and I will share my experiences with the public and see how we can. I don't want to get on a plane and go to Europe because I can't get to Kuala Lumpur. When I saw that documentary by my joy, I saw very, very sad. We can change this thing. We've got everything. These revenue leakages. Why is it taking so long? Why?
And those are questions we've been asking. Prof, thank you so much for joining the conversation. And I will look forward to having an interaction with you physically so we can discuss some of these issues when you're available. Thank you so much for joining the discussion.
Thank you very much. And have a blessed weekend. Well done and keep up the good work. Thank you.
I wish you the same. That is Professor Douglas Boating. He's a value chain governance expert at the University of Mines and Technology. Now, we continue with the next belt of the conversation, also looking at the legal victories that have been chalked, a partial victory for dual citizens, as the Supreme Court has ruled that they can hold some positions hitherto forbidden by the Constitution. What are these positions, and what does this ruling mean for advocates of dual citizenship? We're delving into that, among other issues as well. Dr. Arthur Kennedy stays with us for that discussion as well, as we also bring in our other guests as and when they join us. But, Doc, so here's another bit that comes to mind as far as this Supreme Court ruling is concerned. And let me also... We have Dr. John Osei-Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. He has joined the conversation as well. We'll be interacting with him shortly. Dr. Osei-Kwapong, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm very well. It's good to have you join the conversation. I had already reached out to Dr. Kennedy, so let me just take his initial thoughts on this. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, so here we are. We've had this instance of James Gyakye Quayson in the Asin area, and I'm addressing this to Dr. Arthur Kennedy as well. We've had this development and all that. So I'd just like to pick your thoughts on the court's ruling in regard or in respect of this situation before we move on.
Okay. I actually think that this is one of the most significant rulings by the Supreme Court in our history. 6-1 majority is very clear, and it is unfortunate that it took this long for them to invalidate aspects of 289(2) about what in effect was the 2000 citizenship bill. And it is very self-evident and very clear in their ruling. I made public-spirited comments about James Gyakye Quayson's issue. I thought that it was a travesty of justice. I was surprised that the Electoral Commission did not, for example, file an amicus brief when it got to the Supreme Court to defend him. I thought that he was validly cleared as a candidate to run, and it was the exercise of justice that he won. Of course, the Supreme Court's ruling leaves in place 94 and 82, which are parts of the bill that are still before Parliament. And so I hope that Parliament will clear these outstanding hurdles so that diasporans can take part fully in our political discourse. From us, the way this is that all countries that are making significant progress are relying on their diaspora citizens. And indeed, historically, diasporans have always been important. It goes as far back as Joseph in the Bible. When you look at our own history, actually, Ken Osei Tutu was an Ashanti diasporan in Akwamu who came back home to found the Ashanti nation. We know about Nkrumah and how his return changed our political dynamics for good. And we have a lot of examples about the Black Stars and the role of our diasporans. But I even think that it is not even the notable examples. It is the idea that the 1 to 4 million Ghanaians who live abroad care about this country. By saying this, I do not by any disparage Ghanaians who spend most of their time living at home. I have friends who live at home, excellent people, you know, Benjamin Annan, Kweku Pencil, or Hinebad, and so with whom I have deep conversations about the interests of Ghana. But I can tell you that some of the best conversations I've had regarding Ghana's interests are with diasporans. Kweku Asare, Professor Azar, who has done outstanding work, Kofi Boateng, Mohamed Idris, what do they call it? And a lot of others like Berimo Opon-Owusu. I can tell you that some of the deepest conversations I've had about Ghana are with diasporans. You know, as Professor Azar once told me, I've never even dreamt about America. All my dreams are about Ghana. I say this, it is really self-injury for us to ignore our diasporans. India does a lot of its diasporans. China does a lot of, for example, in Senegal, we just saw the election of a president with significant diasporan contributions. They even have members of parliament elected directly from the diaspora, not to talk about the significant financial contributions that diasporans make. But I'll tell you one thing, one of the things that we are all ignoring, it is not even people like me and Kweku Asare and other diasporans who are, of course, aged and have passed the middle point of our lives that are important. It is our children. And let me tell you a short story. About a few weeks ago, your colleague Samson Biladi invited me to talk about change on the Change Speaker Series. My son, who is in medical school, he attends University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, was back home on a visit. So I picked him up from the airport on Friday night, and when I brought him, I was busy preparing my notes. Dad, what are you doing? I told him. He looked at it. He got very interested, got me to set up my camera and all that. You know, the young man got up at 3 a.m. to watch my presentation. And since then, he's always been engaging me in Ghana. I'm saying that if you get me, you get about maybe, God willing, 10, 15 years of my life. But if you get the generation of my children and the children of all these diasporans, they've been born here, incorporated with its ethics, they have global outlooks. These are the people who want to be invested into the Ghana project. And when we do that, we'll do very well, because I tell you, in this century, the countries that will do well are those who will tap into the full potential of their diasporan populations.
Interesting submissions there. And of course, I'll come back to you later on this point, even as I go to Dr. Osai Kwapong, about your 2017 piece about the diaspora being worth its weight in gold. $60 billion, the contribution in 2012, as far as Africa, the continent, is concerned. So, and of course, that without any strings, more than foreign development aid at the time. Mm-hmm. So that gives a lot of food for thought. But let me come now to Dr. John Osai Kwapong. How do you view this new development where the apex court of our land has said that it's not all these roles that, will forbid you becoming a member? Dr. Osai Kwapong, that one is for you because you're a dual citizen. You can still be a dual citizen and occupy some key positions in the country. Doc, Osai Kwapong, what is your reflection on that?
Good morning again, and good morning to Dr. Arthur Kennedy. As Dr. Kennedy said, it's a ruling, it's a decision in the right direction. I think it's very progressive that you can, it's not always your citizens who are resident at home or your single citizen, like just only Ghanaians that can contribute to the progress and the development of the nation. I believe that if you have dual citizens who live, in other countries, in the diaspora, who can contribute positively to the development of your country, that you shouldn't rob yourself of that opportunity to tap into whatever knowledge, skills, expertise that they will be able to bring to bear, upon, the country and help it move forward. So for me, I believe that this is a decision in the right direction. I applaud the Supreme Court for doing that. I mean, I know that over the years, when this dual citizenship issue has come up with respect to where they can serve or cannot serve in public offices, the argument has always been about some sort of a conflict of loyalty, right? That if you were to put a dual citizen in, the common example that was always used was, well, what if you have a dual citizen, in a particular role, and there's a conflict between the two countries where he or she holds citizenship? they will be conflicted, and where will their loyalty lie, and etc. etc. I never fully bought into that argument, and so it's good to see that the court has come out to say do not bar your dual citizens from serving in some of these critical roles.
Do you feel then that, like you've mentioned, has this been too long in coming, this ruling? And have we as a result been deprived of, some of the intellectual and other capacities of some Ghanaians because of this situation? Because like you said, I mean, there are countries that allow dual citizens to occupy crucial roles.
Right. Better late than never. Hopefully there are still dual citizens who are interested in serving in these public roles, and who would also be given the opportunity to do that. As Dr. Arthur Kennedy said, it's our children, who even become very critical to this project. I mean, I have two daughters, born and raised here in the US, but are very interested in Ghana. We have lots of conversations about Ghana, and so for me, someday, if they want to be able to contribute in some way or shape or form by serving in some public role in Ghana, this offers them the opportunity to do that. And so, we should be able to tap into the talents wherever we can find them. And this is also not to say that there aren't talented individuals in Ghana, but it's just that you want to broaden, widen your net as much as you can, because at the end of the day, it is the development of Ghana that is important to all of us. I've never been of the opinion that being a dual citizen or not being permanently resident in Ghana makes you any more or any less vested in the country. We all care deeply. We are all very interested and passionate about issues of development in Ghana and want to see the country progress. And for those who want to be involved via the public service route, I think this allows them to be able to do that.
Now, if you look at our Citizenship Act, conjointly with the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, it originally expressly proscribed dual nationality in Ghana. And then we had the Constitution of Ghana Amendment Act 1996, Act 527, which sought to alter the position. And it actually brought to bear, however, you would realize that in Section 8.2 of Act 527, it excludes dual citizens from holding certain public offices, namely, and I'm going to walk through some of them: Ambassador or High Commissioner, Secretary to the Cabinet, Chief of Defense Staff of any service, Inspector General of Police, Commissioner, Customs, Excise and Preventive Service, Director of Immigration Services, any office specified by an Act of Parliament. And the amendment also made it possible for the revival of citizenship that was lost as a result of requirements of marriage in another country, among others. Now, with this ruling of the Apex Court, some are saying that it will not suffice just to deal with the low-hanging fruit, but in fact, we must go the full haul and see whether we can push this to the apex of leadership, maybe to the Speaker of Parliament or members of Parliament, to the Chief Justice, to even the President. What do you think about that?
I mean, yes, for certain public offices, and I think we want to sort of expand this as much as possible. Probably there are basis for maybe a few restrictions, right? Maybe at the highest office of the land, like the presidency, you could say, well, maybe when it comes to the presidency, we ought to make some, exceptions. But for me, you want to expand this as much as you can, because again, you want to ensure that you have the best pool of talents that you can draw from. And so if that means that you allow your dual citizens to run as a member of parliament, you do that. And if there's a basis upon which you don't think it is prudent for them to contest for the highest office of the land, like the presidency, it has to be a well-articulated reason. Probably there are some really high stakes of probably, let's say, national security issues, state secrets, etc., that perhaps you may not feel too comfortable to allow a dual citizen to be in the know of that. But even then, again, you ask yourself, are you depriving then your country sometimes of the kinds of talents that it needs to be able to move the development needle forward? So in principle, yes, I agree that we want to make this as expansive, as possible, because at the end of the day, it is all about, how wide is the pool from which I am trying to tap to ensure that my country becomes, the country that it can be with all of its potential.
Right. Before I go back to Dr. Arthur Kennedy, let me bring in Roxanne Nelson Daffy-Amakpo. He's Member of Parliament for South Dai. He joins the conversation. I mean, from the legal angle, this and then the next issue we're going to be contemplating as well, spouses, emoluments, and all of that. But on this specific issue, welcome aboard, by the way.
Thank you.
Dual citizenship. This has been something that you've spoken about, especially courtesy of the James Gyakye Quayson situation. Yeah. Now, there has been a ruling by the Apex Court. How did you receive it?
Well, with mixed feelings, because it's the same court that as it were, injuncted my colleague in Parliament from carrying out his constitutional mandate based on a matter before it, which is yet to be determined. But the person proceeded to bring an application or notice for the grant of an interim injunction to prevent him from carrying out his mandate, purely because the person claimed that at the time that he filed to contest as a member of Parliament, he had not denounced his Canadian citizenship. And so on that basis, he was not qualified to be elected as a member of Parliament. And so eventually, when that matter was determined, he had to go back to recontest, and then he won and he's been brought back or reinstated, as it were. And so for the court to now, after 48 months...
better late than never.
Yes,
we even had Roe versus Wade.
I agree.
Even Roe versus Wade. Centuries.
I agree. So I'm saying that I am gauging the mood of the court. Because Gyakye Quayson, it's still, some aspects of that case is still before the Supreme Court. So would this decision undercut what is before them? Or their view in that matter will be different? So these are the basis upon which I had the mixed feelings. But the other fundamental problem I have with the decision is that the people who advocated for this said, well, those categories of public offices which were closed to persons of dual nationality to holding weren't enough, so we should add more. And now more has been added. And I hear that, well, like when I came in, I heard you say that, well, then we must as well go on the full hall. And
so I was saying that some people had said that.
Yes, it's exactly my point. Because you see, when the amendment was effected in 1996 to introduce dual nationality, dual citizenship, these were the issues. That is why the Minister of Interior is given the authority to indicate, as it was, certain category of public offices that his opinion had to be limited to persons holding dual nationality. But the Supreme Court, with this decision, and we use Parliament to give that power to the Minister of Interior in matters of citizenship. Now, the Supreme Court, by this decision, has taken that power away from the Minister of Interior and has actually judicially pronounced on the matter, given the relief that has been brought before it in this case. So when I walked in, and the idea is that, well, we jump from the basic to the secondary, we must as well move to the tertiary and have the full hall. It's a beautiful idea to have, but you see, fundamentally in international law, there's a reason, there's a jurisprudence underpinning why even those who champion global citizenship, now we are even moving from nationalities to global citizenship, still think that certain portfolios must be limited to people who pay allegiance to one state. You know, there is a technical difference between citizenship and allegiance.
Right.
So that's why I brought my constitution. If I may read our oath of allegiance.
So briefly, if you can,
yes.
Because we're personal.
So for instance, I, Eche Dafomako, do in the name of the Almighty God swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana as by law established. That I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of Ghana, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So help me God. And I've advanced these arguments that I am not against the move to allow Ghanaians who hold dual citizenship to hold certain portfolios. But some, for instance, a head of an organ of state, like the Chief Justice, with all due respect to the advocates, I think that it should be limited to people.
To one per the law who has sole citizenship.
Exactly.
Okay.
In my
Chief Justice. How about Speaker of Parliament? So by extension, MPs, because then the Speaker is picked from the fold, right?
Yes. No. In this decision, I don't think the Speaker is affected. But once we've added the Chief Justice,
the Speaker is not affected. I'm saying for those who are calling for it. You said Chief Justice.
I am making a logical argument. I'm saying once we have added the Chief Justice, it could be a portfolio that could be occupied by somebody with dual citizenship. Then of course, being the head of that organ of state,
it extends to logically to other heads.
Exactly. And I see the wisdom in that, because you see, we have had Ghanaians who had been Chief Justice in some other republics.
True.
Justice Apalu was the first Ghanaian to be a Chief Justice of Kenya. And Kenya, by parity of whatever we do, is like Ghana. Kenya is like Ghana in the East Coast. Because our things are so similar. Then we have subsequently had Justice Brobe and all others becoming Chief Justice of the Gambia. I think we also had a Ghanaian who was a Chief Justice of Botswana or Zambia, one of those. So, you see, to become a Chief Justice of a nation, which means you are head of the judicial organ of that state, you must have taken the oath of allegiance to swear.
Right.
Or sworn the oath of allegiance to bear true faith and allegiance to Kenya at the time that
in other words, do you, for the sake of time, do you support the argument that my allegiance doesn't necessarily tie down to my citizenship?
No, they are two technically different things.
Right.
I may have dual citizenship. Okay.
So that is understood. That point is understood between us. But the point is, must it or does it affect output in any way?
Your allegiance cannot commingle with an allegiance to any other country. Once you take that oath, you are cut off.
Right.
That's why we are making that distinction that citizenship is materially different from.
So the person can be a citizen of, let's say, Bahrain and Ghana.
Let's say Canada.
At the same time.
Let's say
Canada. Allegiance to Ghana.
Yes, let's say Canadian citizen who is also a Ghanaian appointed the Minister of State and takes the oath of allegiance. The expectations is that you bear true faith and allegiance to the unitary state of Ghana.
When you're becoming a citizen of Canada, would you swear allegiance to Canada?
I should think so, because we practice what we call the common law.
And that's where the devil is.
Exactly.
So if you've sworn allegiance to, let's say, Canada, and James Jachikwason comes to mind, if you've sworn allegiance to Canada, right, and then you are taking up a role in Ghana, and you are swearing allegiance here as well. It then, in some ways, suggests a renunciation of that allegiance to Canada, doesn't it?
Yes, we call it recant.
Tacitly.
No, you call it recantation. You have to recant that oath. You have to forswear. You swear and forswear. So you have to forswear that even though I remain a Canadian citizen, I am recanting my allegiance because now I bear true faith and allegiance to the unity.
So you're not recanting the citizenship.
No.
You're only recanting.
You are only recanting the allegiance. Yes.
And so that should ensure
that is
the person
acceptable
can play the
international
role.
law. Yes.
Should it go very quickly? Should it go as far as the presidency?
Well, like I walked in and the idea is coming, but I think the presidency, the speakership, and the chief justiceship will be too far-fetched for me.
Too far-fetched?
Yes.
That will be going too far?
Yes.
Okay.
But the chief justice has been added. So my point really will be immaterial.
It's moot.
Yeah, you cannot say that the head of the judicial organ is less important than the head of the
And that's exactly what I was coming to, because
yes.
these are heads of the three arms of government. What applies to one logically
should be
apply to the
mutatis mutandis applicable to the other.
Right. So very quickly on this point, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, because I also want us to talk about president's spouses and all of that. Do you feel, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, that this should extend even to the presidency? Very brief thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I am talking about practical loyalty. And greetings to my Vanda mate, Kweku Asare, who dreams only about Ghana, was brought up on fufu, whose funuma is buried in Ghana. You worried about his loyalty? Come on. The Americans are not worried about the loyalty of those who were born elsewhere. And we who brought these people up on our customs and traditions, we are worried about their loyalty. Look, let me take you to 1801 to 1803.
But you know, before you go there, just briefly, there's this case of, I've forgotten his name. I don't know whether you would remember. Recently, he served as ambassador of the U.S. to some Latin American states for a number of years. I think originally he was from either Colombia or one of those. And recently it was found out that while he was working as an ambassador for America to other countries, he was actually selling out a lot of state secrets, So sometimes it's pretty tricky, isn't it? For decades. And now he's been sentenced. I've forgotten his name. I'll pull up the story.
But to resume my point, during that War of Independence, people were getting off slave ships in Haiti. They couldn't speak the language. They haven't taken any oath, but they knew the side of freedom. They knew our side. Look, no matter how long a log stays in water, it will never become a crocodile. We are Ghanaians not because we were born in Ghana. Ghana is born in us. George Padmore was an American. He was more fundamental to our fight for independence than most Ghanaians. And he was a very transformative African. That is why W.B. Du Bois is buried in Accra. Bibi Netanyahu is an American citizen. The world has moved on. We have treasure in our dual citizens that we are playing with. And frankly, this notion, the people who have destroyed our country for the most part didn't have dual citizens. They didn't owe allegiance to anybody. They owed allegiance to corruption and to tribes and to religious groups. And they were the people who destroyed Ghana and Africa. These pure patriotic citizens who are in the diaspora, we shouldn't have them even hustling to be part of us. We should be bringing them in because they are assets.
Okay.
Undoubtedly.
Right. Thank you so much for that point. But let's conclude with this, and I'll start with you again, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. The Apex Court has also ruled that it is unconstitutional for salaries to be paid to presidents' spouses. We're going to be looking into that issue, especially on the back of the Professor Yah, committee and its decisions on the matter. What do you make of it? For a long time, we've been doing this. So the spouses of presidents get certain perks, certain benefits. They are using the V8s. They are driving on our fuel. They are getting some money at the end of the month. There was a hue and cry about this some months back. And now the court has ruled this. What does this mean to you? And is it the right decision, do you think?
It is a wonderful decision. This was just stealing. When you break it down, I am not as legally sophisticated about all this, but there has been a lot of looting of public resources under Article 71. And the most egregious example is the payment for spouses. I mean, how greedy can you be that there are carpenters and teachers and others, and they look after their spouses, and you are president or vice president, and in addition to all the privileges you get, the public should pay your spouse? The people who did that should be ashamed of themselves. And I am surprised that every 4 years in this quadrennial looting exercise, they get some uninformed professor to lend their professorial pattern to this, which is legalized stealing. The Supreme Court would be commended for that. And if I had my own way, we should go back and recover every cedi of money paid to a presidential spouse illegally.
For you, Dr. Osei Kwapong, what is your reflection on this? I mean, the court has ruled, but as Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy is saying, this has been what? They will find some professor to give legitimacy to this, but they should be ashamed of themselves. This has legitimized stealing. That's what he's saying. Do you agree with him? Hello, Dr. Osei Kwapong.
Yes, sorry about that. And particularly for this most recent emolument committee, if you look at the principles, I think they had about 10 principles that they espoused as the guiding principles that informed the work they did. When their report came out, I always said I was quite surprised that given those 10 principles, that they ended up with some of the recommendations that they made. Because based on those principles they so neatly espoused, there were some recommendations that should have never found its way into that report. I really found them to be quite odd. One of them particularly being this issue of payment of salaries to the spouses of the president and the vice president, which the court rightly has ruled out as unconstitutional because they are not, quote unquote, classified as public offices. Yes, they may do things in their role that is public in nature, but I am not sure how the Emoluments Committee figured out that you can expand the coverage and the meaning of Article 71 to include them. Yes, we make certain public resources available to their office to enable them to certain things, which for me there isn't anything necessarily wrong with it, right? I mean, if you provide security to the First Lady, a mode of transportation to the First Lady to do certain public things. Those things, are okay.
And you're saying restricted to public things, because I've heard people say, for example, that if she's going somewhere in the accompanying her spouse to go somewhere, let's say it's Independence Day. Of course, you cannot say that. So she can be in the president's car or something of the sort, but not a separate, arrangement for her, because the taxpayer is not meant to pay for that. There are other things we've heard. If out of her own goodness of heart, and that is assuming, because for now we've had only females as, as spouses, she wants to embark on a project and all of that. If she's able to raise funds, fine, but not from the public purse. So these are some concerns that have emerged. Are they not legitimate?
And they are very legitimate. They are very legitimate concerns. So I do not disagree with some of those issues that have been raised. The other thing that, as per the ruling, I saw a comment yesterday on social media where someone said, well, so does that mean that they would, if they were, they were employed, for instance, and now they have to, quote unquote, give up that job to become, First Lady or Second Lady, are we saying that they cannot earn an income? But there are also certain things that once you make a choice to do, comes with a certain element of sacrifice. And so that sacrifice cannot therefore be compensated by classifying you as a public office holder and therefore be paid a regular monthly salary, which means that then at the end of that term in office, you also then become entitled to an ex gratia, something that is already creating a lot of angst among the Ghanaian public. So for me, it's a good decision that has come from the court, because then what's the next step? Because we've been really taking quite an interesting view of this Article 71. And so a time is going to come when another emoluments committee may even decide to expand the meaning and definition of public office holder and decide that other persons may even be entitled to some emoluments under that article.
Let me come into the studio. Roxanne,
yes.
So this is the situation. I wouldn't say I'm inclined to think, but I'm beginning to wonder, with what the Constitution says versus these committees and the work they've done over time, should someone somewhere, whether president or otherwise, not have realized that, listen, explicitly the Constitution and the rules we have do not mention my spouse. My spouse shouldn't be benefiting. They didn't have to take this. In other words, have our people over time had a conscience on this matter? Because they've all exploited it.
Yet, indeed, there has never been any such payment to spouses of previous presidents. The ex gratia payment. You see, they are catered for under the Presidential Transitions Act, under what the Act defines as household of the president.
Indeed.
So if you look at the definition, Doc, if you look at the definition, the household is defined to include,
yes,
wives,
the entirety of...
Exactly. So there's a provision under the budget for the office of the president to cater for them. But why I actually went to court was because Professor Yain Tiamwa, being a successor of other such professors who headed the Emoluments Review Committee, actually went further to now recommend. Because you see, that committee, that commission was set up under the Constitution, which was given effect to by the Presidential Transitions Act. So when the president sets up the committee, it's in pursuance of law. And you are given terms of reference. So one of the key issues I raised before the Supreme Court was that they went outside of their mandate. Your mandate was to determine the emoluments for Article 71 office holders.
And that was what at the time people had said, that they had gone outside there.
Yes. So, but the Supreme Court refused to make pronouncement on that. So they refuse that.
Where does that leave?
No. But you see, when things are done supposedly in pursuance of law, and I think that the law has been breached or has not been complied with, or the person has gone outside of his mandate, the court has the power to make that pronouncement, but they didn't. So they only materially held my material relief, which was that the payment to them was unconstitutional. Now, it will also defeat the argument that main spouses of president, they ought to be regarded as public officers, public office holders. It's a matter of law. If you read our Article 284, it's very clear who a public officer is, and what constitutes public office. And then we have other enactments that defines public office. So there's no way a spouse. So tomorrow, if we have a president who has 3 or 4 spouses, they should all be given these largesse. So clearly, the court was right that if you are not a public officer, properly so-called, you are not a public officer to be catered for, especially under Article 71.
How then do you react to this? I see a comment coming through from Echo Claria, who says, Benjamin, my question to your panelists then is that, can the president therefore appoint appoint their wives into public offices?
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah. They are Ghanaian and may have the competence to head state institutions or even ministerial positions. But you also know that if that happened, Ghanaians will take it on as probably the height of family and friends in government. You are aware of that? Why? I think it's Yoweri Museveni or something recently, the wife or daughter, something of the sort. But
no, I think that was...
If we want to say...
There's something like that, but
they are not...
Yeah.
They are Ghanaian, but they don't deserve anything. Then the other end is that, well, they are Ghanaian, and so what if they are qualified for certain roles? How do you address that?
Okay, the qualification, for instance, for a president to appoint a minister of state is for that person to be qualified to be a member of parliament. All right? And so if the president's wife is qualified to be a member of parliament, the president can appoint her.
Member of parliament? I mean, you go through an electoral process.
I'm saying that the qualification for the president to appoint a person to occupy a ministerial portfolio in this country is the criteria that the person must be qualified to enter parliament. And the qualification to enter parliament is to be a Ghanaian citizen. You must be
of sound
mind. You must be a registered voter. And then what else? I think 21 years or so. That's all. That's all. So if the president's wife qualifies within this remit, she can be appointed.
Okay.
What is restraining presidents from doing so is the moral code.
Right.
Is the moral code.
Right. Let me take your quick thoughts on that, these last aspects, and then we wrap the conversation. Final thoughts, Dr. Arthur Kennedy.
Excellent rulings by the Supreme Court. These Article 71 things have been stealing exercises that have been dressed up as processes. And as for appointing spouses, if we don't check it, very soon we'll be there, because if you look at how one family is dominating our governance, jumping to spouses is a very easy jump. But I say that to say that it does not mean that it should never be done. For example, I think Dr. Addo-Kufuor was very qualified to be a minister. I think that one or two members of the family sometimes are so eminently qualified that we shouldn't quarrel with that. But common sense dictates that there are certain things that in a republic and a democracy we shouldn't do. And I want to also put on the table the fact that presidents don't pay taxes. I think presidents should pay taxes as an example. But overall, commendations to the Supreme Court. Kudos to Speaker Babin and members of Parliament for the work they are doing. Continue the work so that we can use the talents of all Ghanaians regardless of where they are. We should know that they are not Ghanaians because they are born in Ghana. It is because Ghana is born. And sometimes even Black Americans and Caribbeans are more patriotic than local Ghanaians.
Dr. Arthur Kennedy, stay with me briefly. Something skipped my mind, actually, that I want all of you to share your final thoughts on, and then we're gone. It's about Asiodun Ketia, the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, who's been speaking. He says, stop arrogating to yourselves positions and making yourselves kingmakers. And he's described it as worrying, and he's admonishing party faithful to desist from such. Let's listen to what he had to say, then I'll pick your thoughts. So when I come to you, Dr. Osai Kwapong, I'll take your thoughts on both matters to conclude. So let's watch this.
Because we are already convinced that we are there. A lot of people have begun taking positions and fighting over who will be what in the next government. Indeed, some people are not only fighting about the positions they will occupy. They are telling all others that they will be the kingmakers and they will be making their appointment. If we are not careful, this will dampen the enthusiasm and the spirit of our followers. So I want to assure everybody that we are not there yet. Don't be fighting about positions. And don't be struggling about who will make appointments. Let us all go for the hunting first, and when we kill the game, we now argue about how to share the meat.
Johnson Asiedu Nketia, chairman of the NDC there. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, I'll just come to you briefly on that.
Very dispiriting, and I will share here my private prayer if John Mahama should win. I keep thinking of his defeat in 2016, the arrows and slings that went his way, and I hope that somewhere on the road to Damascus there has been a conversion, and if he should be the next president, he will decide that this time he will live on a positive note and be a transformational president. And in my mind, that does not seem like what Asiedu Nketia is presaging. I hope he misspoke. And I hope that we can get to the day when one day a president will leave office and walk about 1,000 meters to his parked cars and have Ghanaians lined on the streets to thank him or her for being an exemplary president. I keep praying for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwabena Arthur Kennedy, for your final thoughts on this matter. Dr. Osai Kwapong.
You know, get here, say what he said, and very publicly like that. For me, my worry was that it seems like politics is still caught in this cycle of winning is about how you share, quote unquote, the spoils of war.
And mind you, he's talking about meat, like kill the game first and then share the meat. What is the meat?
Precisely, the meat, you know, and for me, as Dr. Kennedy said, it is very dispiriting, right? It seems like our approach to politics and elections and winning still boils down to a sort of a personal reward as opposed to, you know, country first. You know, we keep saying, you know, this adage of for God and country, but it seems like it's really not about God and it's really not about country, right? That even before the election is won, there's already juggling for I want to be X, I want to be Y, because it's like if I am to put time, energy, and resources into campaigning for a particular candidate, then some kind of a personal reward has to come to me. And for him to have also said that publicly, hopefully, is a strong admonishment, you know, to those who are trying to, you know, engage in that. I mean, he still says, let's kill the game first, and then we can figure out how to share the meat. I just hope that for everything that particularly Ghana's main opposition party, the NDC, has been saying about the current government, that they won't be coming in, should they win 2024, with the same mentality that it is a game that has to be shared once we have won the election.
Thank you, Doc, for having joined the conversation as well. I'll wrap in the studio with someone who is actually a member of that party, the National Democratic Congress. Roxanne, you have the final word. How did you feel when you heard your party chairman say that? Because on that same platform, the running mate had said that we are not going to be dealing in corruption and all of that, but this is what he had to say. And I'm asking, what is the meat that eventually will be shared?
Now, first of all, the name of the former American ambassador.
The one I was speaking of.
15 years. Manuel Rocha.
Right.
Rocha.
Yes. I had just his
He's
name.
Now 73, was jailed 15 years.
Yes.
For spying for Cuba.
Exactly.
For like 40 years.
Yes.
So I quickly look it up. So, look, I was happy when generals spoke this way.
You were happy?
I was happy because it was, for me, calling everybody to order that we have work to do. So you better focus on the work. Regarding what Doctor said, that it's as if we talk about...
But please, let's not... He said two things.
Yes.
Don't fight for spoils and all of that. But then he came and said meat, and we go and kill and share them.
No.
Let's focus on that.
That's what I want to address. We have, as part of our governance process, been talking about winner takes all. What does it mean? It connotes the same thing. When civil society and the clergy say that we must move away from the winner takes all, the winners, what do they take? They take the benefits that come from being given executive power of state. Benefits, i.e., appointing party persons to occupy public portfolios.
The question then is based on what he said. At what point do we stop perpetuating that, making it perpetual? Because, for example, you don't have to necessarily come in and change an IGP. It's a choice. You don't necessarily have to come in and change certain people who are managing CEOs and all of that. It's a choice. We do that because of the politics, not because any law says we should do that.
You know, because the law says you should do that. Read the Constitution.
Do what?
The Constitution says the president will appoint public officers.
Exactly. It doesn't say the president must.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
That is the power given to the president. I went to court to challenge the president that when he was retained for a second term, he merely directed his DCEs to continue in office and added that they ought not to take policy decisions until further notice. And I said that directive meant that he was asking them to continue in office even though his mandate had come to an end and had just been renewed by the people. The Supreme Court said, yes, you may be right, but according to the Constitution in Article 146 and all that, the appointment of DCEs is not coterminous to the term of the president. So, for instance, if the president appoints a DCE today, he's supposed to stay in office for 4 years. He has a 4-year mandate. But the president's term will expire 6 January midnight 2025. So this clarity has been brought to bear. That, for instance, when the president directs that this person should continue, we have to determine whether their mandate to occupy office for 4 years had come to an end or not. So I'm saying that the president, under the Constitution, whenever elected, is given power to make appointments, to disappoint and appoint people. So the president, by making appointments, can remove a person who is in office. That's the point I'm making. Anyway. So the use of the of the cliche, the myth, and all that, it's synonymous to winner takes all. Because winner takes all, it's a very common phrase within our governance structure that we say that when we win, the winner takes all. What do they take? Is the spoils of war, is the meat. It's the same phrase that Asiedu Ketia alluded to. But the point for me is that everybody has been called to order within the party. We have to focus on our work, and that people who are also supposedly claiming that there will be kingmakers. It's a fluke, it's an imagination.
All right, we have to go, but this just came in. My attention was just averted to this, so I'll just pose that question to you. The European Union is confident that Ghana's anti-gay bill will not become a law, the LGBTQI bill, and that is per a report from graphic.com. It has indicated that the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Act, commonly known as the anti-gay bill, which was passed by the Parliament of Ghana recently, would not become a law. And that is what, speaking at, and let me just cite for your, speaking at the European Parliament on April 24, 2024, Virginius, and the rest of the name is pretty difficult to mention, but he is the European Union Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries. Representing the Union's Vice President, Josep Borrell, addressed the Parliament on issues surrounding Ghana's anti-gay bill. And that was where this was said. How do you react to that? All your work gone down the drain.
It's a very sad commentary to hear coming from the European Union. The European Union is given a diplomatic status in our governance structure under the Rome Convention. I think that they should be very careful how they make this pronouncement. They cannot make pronouncements that undercut the authority of Parliament or the sovereign Parliament of the people of Ghana. Sovereign subject to the Constitution. We have done our work. If the presidency is feeding them with this information, they better go and read Article 106 of the Constitution. If the president refuses to assent, Parliament has the power to pass it per two-thirds majority. They should be cognizant of, they should pay cognizance to that provision and not make this categorical statement that the law as passed, the bill as passed into law will not be assented to by the president. They may be being fed with. Honestly, I am upset by the comment.
You're upset by it?
I'm upset.
What will you do about it? That's the final thing. What will you do about it?
You are aware that these matters are in court.
Okay.
And myself, I'm in court.
Right.
I'm seeking a judicial order to compel the president to receive the bill.
Okay.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Constitution. So we are doing things in accordance with our legal regime, and they should stop meddling and intermeddling in our affairs.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You just heard Roxanne Nelson Daffy-Amakpo, Member of Parliament for South Dai. He's also taken some of these crucial matters to court over time. That's why we brought him on. Also joining the conversation from SML to dual citizenship to emoluments for spouses, we had Professor Douglas Boateng, value chain governance expert at the University for Mines and Technology. We also had Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, CDD fellow, and Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy, a physician and political activist. Stay with us. There's still more to come on the AM show. We'll be right back.
At the end of round 3, to Canada? Who is going to Canada? At the end of round 3, Golden Angel School, 59.5 points. School, 60 points.
It's all about the inter-schools reading quiz, and that must have been painful. Losing by half a point, 0.5. But, well, the Golden Angel School, I don't know, it was angelic up until Theoro School came and took it away. And we have them in the studio. Ta-da! I'm giving you the winners. Oh, do we have a drum roll? I think you deserve a round of applause. Yeah? So your Theoro School coming through. We have here also speaking for the inter-schools reading quiz, Gifty Abena Amokra. Gifty, thank you for joining us in the studio, and you guys as well.
Thank you for having us.
These are two sisters, from what I recall. Would you like to introduce yourself, guys?
Yes.
Your name is?
Irabna Kranting Asante.
Irabna Kranting Asante. It's the fluidity for me. Irabna Kranting Asante. Yes.
Grace Apia.
Grace Apia. And?
Gloria Apia.
Laura Pia.
Gloria.
Okay. Claudia.
Gloria.
Gloria. Okay. I've given you different names this morning. But guys, how do you feel about this trophy that you've actually won right now? This win. I mean, you all wanted to make it go to Canada and all that. Please, what are your thoughts?
We are overwhelmed with joy and gratitude to be standing here as the winners of the Inter-School Reading Quiz 2024, and we are so grateful to God for how far He has brought us.
It's a wonderful trophy. Look at it. Beautiful. Can I hold it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here we are. So you guys can see everything. Wow. Beautiful trophy. Let me see for myself. Wow. And this also comes with a lot of perks. Tell us about that.
So they win a fun and educational trip to Canada for 2 weeks. So during their long vacation, they get to tour around the libraries in Canada. Okay. And then their school also won a cash prize. They also get souvenirs from our sponsors. They've already gotten it, actually.
Was that the cash prize?
So the souvenirs, the cash prize, everything is part of the prize. So they get to win all of that as well. Yes, and they get to go to Canada, as I mentioned, and then they get a sponsorship on Scripps National Spelling Bee.
Oh,
yes.
So they're also going to, are they have they qualified? Or
they haven't, yes, they now have to, but they get a full year's sponsorship on that. So
that's amazing. So you get to hone your spelling skills as well. Maybe when you're going, your handbag, when you're traveling to Canada. But how does this really make you feel? I'll start with you.
Happy and splendid.
Happy and?
Splendid.
Hey, Charlie, I'm hearing things here. And for you? You won. You said you would beat the boys, and you've beaten them. I mean, what was it like when you were declared winners by half a point?
I was taken aback and elated.
Taken aback and elated. Okay. And for you, Gloria?
I was shocked.
You were shocked?
Yes.
Okay. Did you feel intimidated by the boys? Did you think?
Yes.
But eventually you won?
Yes.
Okay. So for you guys, you're representing the Theorose School. Moving forward, what are you expecting? When are they due to travel?
So as I mentioned, during their long vacation, that's somewhere around July, August.
Okay.
Yes, that's when they are going to be going to Canada.
So what processes will they be going through between now and then?
So now and then they're on a campaign. Hey, everyone should read because reading leads to success. Reading is fun, it's exciting, and you can actually read your way all the way to Canada. And of course, we are launching the Inter-School Reading Quiz 2025 in August. So we are calling on all schools who are interested. Some schools said they didn't get the opportunity to register early. So this time we are giving you prior notice so that you can register now. And you can get your CAP subscribed on the platform. They can read so that you can have a good chance to be in the competition next year.
All right. So now that the quiz is over, what can we expect from Perby Caps, apart from what you're telling us?
Okay,
An expansion, and then what?
So now that the quiz is over, as I mentioned, we are going to be on a campaign to do the next Inter-Schools Reading Quiz.
Okay, so that's it, basically.
No, so that's not it. So the children are also going to lead a campaign on reading in Ghana. I mean, reading and how to improve, how to become a better person, a better student as a reader, a child reader. They did this, they were able to do it, so the children elsewhere can also do it as well. So basically, yeah.
Well, this is it. I always say that read good stuff growing up, and when you grow up, it will give you some great assistance. Look at me. I'm an example of that. And these little champions, Theorose School, have won this trophy right here, and they're heading to Canada. Congratulations once more, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you as well, Gifty-Abna Amokra. She's Business Development Manager, Inter-Schools Reading Quiz. Up next, we'll tell you about Perez Chapel's Supernatural Empowerment Summit 2024. Look forward to that. It's all about the Supernatural Empowerment Summit 2024. Now, if you are a Christian in any area of leadership and you need more power for impact, then join the host and speaker, Archbishop Charles Agyinasare, and other seasoned speakers from Ghana. I'm talking about the likes of Prophet Nanasse Sarkodie, Reverend Dr. Steve Wengham, Reverend Mrs. Vivian Agyinasare, and from Nigeria, Reverend Samuel O. Olubio, Apostle Richard Udo, and from Congo, Apostle Eve Castanu. The theme is how to walk in the power of God. It will be a time of insight, inspiration, and impartation. The date is Monday, the 29th of April, all the way to Sunday, the 5th of May, 2024. The time, 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. The venue is the Perez Dome in Jowulu, Accra. It's actually at the Jowulu Junction. For more information, call 0548 633 650 or visit www.sesummit, as one word, .org. Supernatural Empowerment Summit, receive power for impact. We're receiving some of that power in the studio this morning as we host from Jesus Power Church, Bishop Joshua Nana Owusu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Yes.
Now, what can you say? I mean, we've had this, and this year is going to be something different, but how spectacular is the SES, Spiritual Empowerment Summit, going to be?
Yeah, the Archbishop and whose authority this program is being organized has been a seasoned man of God all these years. And God has used him over the years. From 2013, I started attending Supernatural Empowerment Summit. And every year, what happens is better, far better than what happened the last year. This year is going to be awesome because it's talking about the supernatural power of God, walking in the power of God. How do we receive power to go and impact our generations? Yeah. He has been a man, apostle to the nations, and have already impacted nations. And this year he's going to impart grace unto us so that we can go and do it. So now his focus is his sons and daughters and everyone in any field of leadership to come and to receive so that we can go and make impact. He has already made his mark. He has already made his mark.
I guess as the word says, as you have received, freely give.
Yeah.
And so that's why impartation is made mention of. What is going to be distinct about this year?
This year is going to be different because this year is going to focus on the supernatural, how each one of us can get into certain realm that accomplishing our dreams will not be a struggle. Because the Bible has made it clear to us that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. And there are several forces that are resisting many people that even when you are sent into a position of leadership, sometimes you are not of yourself. You don't know what happens or what makes you make those mistakes. People promise when they want to ascend to a position of leadership, but when they get there, it's a different thing altogether. And this is where supernatural empowerment comes in. When individually are empowered, be it a politician, a teacher, or businessman, businesswoman, so that you can bring to pass whatever the desires of your heart may be. And that's what we're going to do. It takes the power of God to destroy the power of the devil.
Right. Who can partake in this? Is it open to everybody?
It's open to everybody. Everybody who has a desire to become somebody. But one of the desires of the Archbishop is that anyone that comes in contact with him will become somebody. So it's open to everybody. Everybody listening to us, market women. We have what we call market women apostles. I'm one of the sons of the Archbishop globally. He has charismatic ministers under him, GCMN, and one of the executive members. We have over 350 under him who are receiving impartation to go into various places and impact. So everybody must attend to this conference, and their lives will never be the same.
Has anyone ever told you, though, that you do look like Bishop Agyinasare? Do you get that?
Yeah.
You do get it sometimes?
Yeah.
Anyway, I noticed when you came into the room. In some 20 seconds, final words, talk to the people out there.
Okay. So to every one of you watching me, this is a life experience. I've been with Papa for many years, and I received from him, and my ministry has never been the same. Had it not been these encounters, I would never be where I am today. When we go out and we minister to many people, they always say that we can see Archbishop in you. It's true. Elijah imparted to Elisha. Moses imparted to Joshua. So come and receive an impartation, and your life will never be the same. You don't know what God is going to do with your life until you have this empowerment. When it is clear that you have received that empowerment, you can go all over the world and become what God wants you to be. So see you on Monday. Monday, we start from Monday, 5:30 p.m. Monday will be evening. Then from Tuesday, we have the morning and the evening from Tuesday to Saturday. Then Sunday will be crowning it. Make sure that you reschedule your program, whatever you are doing, cancel some of the programs, because one touch of this empowerment will make your life become what God wants to be. God bless you.
God bless you too. And that is Bishop Joshua Nanowusu of the Jesus Power Church. It's all about the Perez Chapel Spiritual or Supernatural Empowerment Summit. You want to partake in that. Right before we take our photo of the day, Royal Cozy Hotels or Royal Cozy Hills is calling you. Escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel. That is Japa, Dubai. You have seen the rest. Now it's time to see the best. Take a break from work and take a break from the South. The Royal Cozy Hotels, that is Japa, Dubai, is the place to relax, rewind, and re-energize. It is away from the stress of here, the South. Now, this is what awaits you. An unforgettable safari experience, an amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamuses, zebras, ostriches, among many others, using our spacious and well-secured game tour vehicles or using quad bikes. Water sports, such as jet skiing, boats, or canoe rides, various family games to keep you and your family excited every day, great tourist attractions in the Upper West region, including the Mushroom Rock, Slave Caves, among others. Escape from the south, escape to the north, escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, that is Japa, Dubai, for an unforgettable safari experience. Just call these numbers to make your booking: 0501 694 280 or 0248 844 463 for reservations or further inquiries now. But up next, let's enjoy our photo of the day for today. It represents fisher folk from Jamestown. You know how we do. And their daily activity. You see the canoe, you see the flag, you see the men and the effort, what it takes to haul in the fish, including the plastic that they haul nowadays, because our waters are also getting full of plastic. But it's been good coming your way this Friday morning. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Look forward to seeing me again, if God gives us life, come Monday. Up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay.